Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas, everyone. I feel kind of like a dick because we celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve. My sister got me this really great Chiefs hoodie on Christmas, and I have not yet thanked her. I'm not wearing it right now because I'm hot. Because I'm hot. More ways than one, I'm hot. More ways than one, I am hot. Oh, man, I'm starting off the show great. I got Perry in the house. Welcome, Perry, from north of the border here. Hey, Dan, how are you? I am fantastic. If you haven't had a chance, Perry, check out my NFL Week 17 picks video. It is fantastic. Some quick announcements here. Friday, you don't want to miss Friday's show. I have a very special treat for you. Denver Gator is going to come on Friday. He's going to talk college football. He has a game that he's going to give you that you can bet your entire life savings on. You can bet your entire life savings on what Denver Gator is going to tell you. And Denver Gator and I used to do picks videos together last year. And at one point he was picking NFL games about 70%, but his expertise is on college football. I'm getting caught up trying to watch college football. I'm getting ready for the draft. I'm going to level with you. Christmas is great and everything. I'll take the NFL draft over Christmas anytime. I love the NFL draft. Christmas is okay. I love the NFL draft. The NFL draft is always better than Christmas, in my opinion. I'm really getting ready for it. So, I mean, I'm already starting now. I don't start 5 months early for Christmas, but I'm starting 5 months early for the NFL draft. So, I'm getting really ramped up into college football. I'm going over some mock drafts. I've seen several that I really wonder if these guys understand how football works, and I've seen some really good ones. No mock drafts I'm going to share publicly. Right now, no mock drafts I'm going to share publicly. I'm gonna go over some of the comments, or not comments. I'm sorry, some of the highlights here, and I'm gonna steal this just right off of ESPN. Hawkinson is out for the year, torn ACL, MCL. It's a big loss. It's going to be one of the games I'm really highlighting. Sunday is Vikings Packers, because even though at 7-9 you're not mathematically eliminated from the playoffs in the NFC, 7-9 pretty much guarantees you're not going to be able to make it. The winner at 8-8 has a mathematical chance to make the playoffs. I think the loser doesn't. So I think that's a big loss, because Justin Jefferson's been in and out. I like Jordan Addison. Defense is good, but it's not. It's going to be a good game. I mean, but losing Hawkinson's a big one. Trevor Lawrence. If you watched my picks video, I go over this over and over and over again. There's 5 8-6 teams in the AFC right now. There's 5. 3 of them are in the AFC South: Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and Houston. So Trevor Lawrence not starting Sunday is a big loss, and it's iffy. A lot of people may say, "Well, you're just playing against Carolina, the worst team in the NFL. It's not that big of a deal." Bryce Young outplayed Jordan Love. Bryce Young had his first 300-yard game. He finally looks like the guy that a lot of people thought he could be coming out of Alabama. And keep in mind, you can go back and look at a lot of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Look at guys like Troy Aikman, John Elway, Peyton Manning. Their rookie seasons, they did not play well, but usually there was a moment late in their rookie season where you saw something. And I think you saw that from Bryce Young. My boy Gooch, who may or may not be in the comments later on today, he's a big Alabama fan. He wasn't 100% sold on Bryce Young, but as a college quarterback, there was few better. And I think you saw Sunday the potential of how good he could be. He outplayed Jordan Love completely. If you didn't get a chance to see that game, It was 33-30, and they scored 15 points in the final quarter. And what happened was they put themselves in position. Now, they made a mistake because they threw the ball in the middle of the field, and it looks like they may have spiked the ball like half a second left to line up for a long field goal. But, you know, in a situation like that, you don't throw the ball in the middle of the field. I thought it was a bad decision. But I mean, Bryce Young had his first 300-yard passing game. He looked really good. You can say what you want, but Green Bay, you know, it's funny because both Green Bay and Minnesota at times this year looked like playoff teams. So, Jacksonville and Carolina, you know, a lot of people may kind of just yawn at that, but Jacksonville's lost 4 straight. I follow a lot of Jaguar stuff on social media. Speaking of social media, by the way, I'm still banned on Facebook. I have no idea why. So those of you who follow me on Facebook or, you know, trying to follow me on Facebook, look, I'm really sorry. I've emailed them twice. I'm assuming because it's Christmas. Christmas is just yesterday. That's kind of the reason why they're a little delayed, but I have no idea why. So, the Vikings are in trouble. They need to win out. Well, you know, it's funny because both Green Bay and Minnesota, if they win out, they're still not guaranteed a spot. 9-8 doesn't get you in, but 9-8's a possibility. Right now, Seattle and the Rams are 8-7, and both those teams, if they go 10-7, they'll occupy the 6 and 7 spots. Now, it's very likely that both those 1 or 2 of those teams could lose 1 or 2 of those games. That's why 9-8 can maybe get you in, but it's not a lock. However, 8-9, except for the NFC South winner, which I think will finish at 8-9. One guy actually commented on my video, and I normally don't call people out, but the Tampa Bay's been quietly the NFC's hottest team. They've won 4 straight. And he said, you know, no way the Saints beat the Bucks. And I'm like, well, you know, how much would you have bet that the Bucks would win 4 straight? He's like, I would have bet a lot. And I'm like, bullshit. There's no way. No way. When the Bucks are 4-7, you would have bet a lot that Bulls would have been fired, not that they're going to win 4 straight. And he's like, well, I saw some improvement. And I was like, bullshit, you know. And I encourage Bucks fans to join this community. I want fans from all 32 fan bases, but I really don't believe that if you're a Bucks fan, you're like, oh yeah, when we're 4-7, we're going to win 4 straight and be in a great position to win the NFC South. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. For those of you who don't know, I am a Chiefs fan. I did Chiefs play-by-play on Christmas, so I felt like I got coal in the stocking. Unlike most Chiefs Kingdom, unlike most of the Chiefs fans, I'm blaming the Chiefs receivers and not Taylor Swift. The amount of Taylor Swift hate is just crazy. It's not our fault, guys, I promise. But you know, Perry, the Vikings and the Packers, even if they win out, I'm sorry, I can't keep a straight face. I got Keys in the house. Keys, Merry Christmas, brother. Oh, no, you definitely take that Bucks bet. Didn't you know Baker Mayfield is better than Patrick Mahomes? Twitter moron said something. Yeah, yeah, so, yeah, I couldn't believe the guy's like, oh, yeah, I would bet quite a bit that the Bucks would have won 4 straight when they were 4-7. I'm like, no. In Youngtown, yeah, Bryce Young, there's always a point in a rookie's there's always a point in a successful NFL quarterback's career, his rookie season, if he starts, that you see the greatness. I remember Patrick Mahomes only started that last game, and you saw it right away. But when you get a rookie quarterback and he starts, there's usually a sign that this can be the guy. And if you're a Panthers fan, you saw it last week against Green Bay. You really did. So he needs talent. Ike Ekwonu, the left tackle guy, I just fell in love with. The more and more I watched Ike Ekwonu a couple of years ago, he ended up being my number 1 player on that board. He's the Panthers left tackle, and he's not playing that well, and it's really surprising. They also got another guy, Derek Brown. He was, I think, second and third overall pick, and he's another guy I thought was just going to come into the NFL and be a force, and he's not panned out at all. They need to make some moves. And by the way, the way it works out, they're going to pick number 33, and I always say the same thing, picks 33 through 39. I'll call them the gold picks because you're going to get a really good player, especially in this draft where you have so many quarterbacks and so many receivers and so many tackles. You're going to be able to get a really good player. Unfortunately, I think Carolina needs a receiver, and Carolina may trade up from 33 and going up a little bit in this draft. It wouldn't surprise me if they trade back into the first round, especially if one of these receivers drop. But I also could see them staying pat at 33. In last year's draft, remember the Steelers picked 33 because they traded, got 12 minutes into the show, already had a name freeze. Chase Claypool to the Bears, and they got the first pick in the draft. They drafted Joey Porter Jr. I went through literally thousands of mock drafts, and Joey Porter Jr. was in every single mock draft as a first-round draft pick. I actually had him as my number one corner for a long time, and then I started watching Christian Gonzalez more and more, and I was like, I don't know. And Witherspoon, I didn't have a real good feel on him. I really didn't have that good of a feel on him, so I kind of – it was just between Joey Porter Jr. and Christian Gonzalez as who was my number one corner. And Joey Porter Jr., though, I thought definitely should have been a first-round pick. Steelers get him at pick 33. So there's a player that's going to have – and Joey Porter Jr. was a first-round talent at corner. He just fell in the draft. And that happens sometimes. It really happens sometimes. And the Panthers at 33 may be able to get a really good player like that because the way it worked Pittsburgh put now keep in mind this is due to injury, but I could see them going forward doing this, is that Pittsburgh moved Patrick Peterson to safety. And they did it 2 weeks ago when Minkah Fitzpatrick went down, but Patrick Peterson had a pick in the game against the Bengals, and it wouldn't surprise me going forward if they put Patrick Peterson at safety. And they had Levi Wallace. They signed from Buffalo to a 2-year deal. He's probably going to be gone, but it wouldn't surprise me if Pittsburgh says, look, what if we have Fitzpatrick and Patrick Peterson back there at safety? Fitzpatrick played corner at Alabama, and some people thought that he'd be better suited for corner in the pros, but he's been a really, really great safety. Patrick Peterson, at this point in his career, I think the Steelers would be smart having both those guys at safety. Okay. I went on a rant. By the way, I haven't done my dishes. That's why I'm drinking on my steel coffee cup today, which I put creamer in. You can believe that. I think the Rams and Seahawks are better than the Packers and Vikings. I do too. Here's the deal. If the Rams and Seahawks win out, they're in the playoffs. They are in the playoffs. No question, no doubt. All they got to do is win and in. That's it. It's a very simple recipe. But if one of those teams slip, whoever wins between the Packers and the Vikings can get that final spot. But one of those teams have to slip. The Rams hold the tiebreaker over the Seahawks by sweeping the Seahawks. The way things are right now, and I think this is how it's going to be, and I can't wait. I really think that what you're going to see is a Lions-Rams wild card, and that's just going to be great TV. I think it's going to be a great TV. The Bucs got a chance, but it's a really faint chance. So the way it works is that the Bucs are 8-7. Both the Saints and the Falcons are 7-8. The Bucs play the Saints. So if the Bucs beat the Saints, the Bucs actually clinch the NFC South Sunday. With a win, they clinch. Okay? It doesn't matter what Atlanta does because Atlanta will play Tampa Bay, but because Atlanta already because Tampa Bay already beat Atlanta, they would hold the tiebreaker even if Atlanta wins that final game. So Tampa Bay is winning in against the Saints. But if you've been watching this channel at all, and I know, Perry, you have, I like the Saints to win the division. I think the Saints win out. I think the Bucs will choke. The only thing I don't know is that if the Saints beat the Bucs, and both teams end up 9-8 and both teams split, I don't know how the tiebreakers work because they both will have the same conference and division records, and then goes to head-to-head opponents. And I didn't do all that research yet because it's not that important yet. But the Bucs win. They win the NFC South. If the Saints win, then it gets creative. Some love here for you guys. Do you think Mayfield is worth resigning if you are the Bucs? I actually think Keith has me cracking up. Do you think Mayfield is worth resigning if you're the Bucs? I do. So about 4 weeks ago, I believed that Bowles would be fired and you would use that draft pick to try to trade up for a quarterback, and I'm kind of circling Jaden Daniels, because he's right there smacking SEC country. So that to me made a lot of sense. So that's kind of what I thought. Now I'm looking at this team and Todd Bowles. Let's just say Todd Bowles comes back. If I'm Baker Mayfield, for those of you who don't know, Baker Mayfield got offered several years ago when he was the Browns quarterback. He got offered it was a 3-year, I want to quote you, $92 million deal. And keep in mind, this was at the time, I don't know if you remember this, but he was doing these fantastic progressive commercials. They were amazing. Like I'm not a huge Baker Mayfield fan. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I love Baker Mayfield, but those progressive commercials were awesome. Where he was in the stadium, he had one with Alice Cooper that was just amazing. If you missed out, that was probably my favorite. Like he brought over some packages, and Alice Cooper's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Baker Mayfield's in his robe, and he's like, "Oh man, they sent me your mail by mistake again," and it was some really great commercials. And Patrick Mahomes just got his $500 million deal, so Baker Mayfield said, "Wait a minute, I took the Browns that were winless to the playoffs, and I won a playoff game, and you're offering me $92 million, and Patrick Mahomes getting $500 million. No, I'm gonna hold out and I'm gonna roll the dice." Then he got injured, and he didn't play well, and so he kind of bounced around the NFL. Baker Mayfield's smart. He signs a friendly deal to stay with Tampa Bay as the starter. So he has a friendly deal to stay in Tampa Bay as the starter if he's smart. And if he does, then yes. And Keys just steals it, yeah. So I sent Dan my tiers tanking rankings and moved the Chiefs to 10. So Dan then invited me for being on. So actually here's the drill, Keys, because it was the holidays. It was a little hectic. I didn't reach out. So I apologize, because I love having a co-host on because it makes things a lot easier. For those of you who don't know, like, I have not figured out how to do Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So I work a little bit on my videos on Sunday, not much. I usually what I do is right after Monday Night Football, I work for several hours on my video. What I did is I stayed up till 3:30 in the morning. Then I set my alarm for 7:30, and then I just did my video. So from 7:30 to about 1:30, I don't know exactly when I released my video, but I was going on like 3 hours of sleep. So as soon as I get done my video, I'm not functioning all cylinders. For me, energy drinks last about 4 hours. I had one about an hour ago. Okay. Yeah, I'm ranting bad. So, I while the video loads, I set up the live stream. But then as soon as the live stream set up and the video is released, I always watch it live. Nobody commented when the video came out, but I still always watch it live. Just I get a kick out of watching my own stuff. just like Quentin Tarantino. Yeah, I'm right. No, I'm joking, but I'm a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, by the way. It was actually funny. Somebody was like, what do you watch on TV? And he goes, anytime one of my movies like comes on TV, I just watch my own stuff. But yeah, I do that. But yeah, he's right. But I know I would have preferred you be honest, Keith. I would prefer to have you on. It's just that I know you got like 14 kids. I really assumed that you would just be busy. Plus, it's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I've not figured out. My goal is for next year to have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday figured out a lot better because I tried doing my weekly picks videos on Wednesday. I don't like it. I like my picks videos coming out on Tuesday. I tried to do that Monday morning power ranking and it was really hard. So. One Pride 40 says, what's up? For those of you that don't know, One Pride 40 for Christmas got 2 Lions jerseys, a watch, a phone, a car, and a size 2.5 cock ring. And I was a little surprised, because I wear a size 9 ring. I'm not insulting you, One Pride. I'm just saying I wear a size 9 ring, So I don't know why yours is 2.5, but yeah. So One Pride had like the greatest Christmas of all time, and this is it. New Kings in the North. By the way, you know what happened is for Christmas, I just got a bunch of people blaming Taylor Swift. So yeah, that's going to be one of the big. By the way, that Keys is saying I wouldn't want to give. And he's talking about the Baker Mayfield thing. And that's a really, really great question because I think it comes down to price. And by the way, he's 100% correct. If you're on, you'd just go. I would give him more than that. Geno Smith got a 3-year, $105 million contract. I believe that's correct. I'm spitballing numbers without looking it up. I would offer him something like that, like what he got offered in Cleveland. I would offer him 30, and the reason why you would do that is you want to make sure you lock him in, and you also want to make sure you build a team around him. Baker Mayfield's a solid quarterback. I think his ceiling is like the very, like somewhere between. I mean, his ceiling somewhere between 10 and 12. Like that's the best he can play. But I would pay him a little more than that. Is this 2 games in a row or 3 losses? So what it is that it's 2 straight losses, 3 straight losses at Arrowhead. 3 straight losses. We play Cincinnati at Arrowhead. So if we lose to the Bengals, it'll be 4 straight at Arrowhead. Good luck if you're the Bengals. Good luck if you're the Bengals. So One Pride had like the best Christmas of all. I seriously. Yeah, they lost 3 of the last 4, but they beat the Patriots a week ago, so there's only a 1-game losing streak. It's 3 straight at Arrowhead. The thing is, Baker won 40 or 50. That's what he wanted in Cleveland, and I think he may have learned his lesson. So I went to. Oh, okay. So he says Ducks, but he meant Dicks. Yeah, league championship T-shirt. They had like 6 left. So. This is a great comment by Keith. There's no way in hell I'd give Baker $50 million a year, but I'd be in favor of a division rival doing it. Yeah, I mean, don't forget, Derek Carr signed a 4-year $160, and that's why, and that's why, like when you look at what Baker Mayfield could command in free agency, all you got to do is look at Derek Carr. And so anything less than that, he can just point to Derek Carr and say, well, I did better than that. The Saints gave him 160. So, and that's kind of what his agent will be doing. And that's it. And so like, if you're Baker Mayfield, you might have to consider that. Cause I mean, I'll be honest with you. I think there's going to be an NFL team that would offer Baker $40 million a year, just like Derek Carr got. I really believe that there would be. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I would take less and I would stay in Tampa because there's actually some pieces in Tampa Bay. I mean, the defense is solid. You got some good receivers. You got some good pieces on your offensive line. I mean, they're far from finished product. I mean, they're really far from a finished product. But if I'm Baker, I mean, I would just say, hey, look, I mean, because he went from the Browns were ready. The Browns were going to sign him to it was 3 year. I'm going to quote you 92. So he turned down over 30 million, and then he had to sign like a 1 year deal for like a couple million. By the way, there was talk in preseason that he wasn't even going to be the starter. There was talk in preseason that he wasn't even going to get the starter. A couple years ago when they had Brady, they drafted Kyle Trask, a guy that I really liked out of Florida. And they drafted him in the bottom of the second round. He was a Heisman candidate. And Kyle Trask, some people thought was a first round pick. I didn't, but I thought bottom of the second round it was solid. Some people thought maybe Trask should be the guy instead of Mayfield. Mayfield had to beat him out. So, yeah. At Keys, you said Kansas City is in a retool. If they don't make the playoffs or lost their first game, would you be mad if it was just part of a retool? Keys says that's why Dan's sponsor said I can't be here anymore. I make Dan crack up, or it reminds him of his biggest lie. Keys, by the way, I really should have reached out to you and see if you wanted to come on. But I really thought you'd be busy. It's the mistake's mine because I love having you on. It's much better to do this show with a co-host. It really is. Yeah, all the Chiefs have to do is win one of their final two games. So the way it works is that if the Chiefs lose their final two games, and the Raiders and Broncos, by the way, play each other the last game of the season, so only one of them can win. So one of them would have to win out completely, and the Chiefs would have to lose out. If you watch my picks video, just spoiler alert, I do have the Chiefs beating the Bengals, but watch it anyway. Watch the picks video. It's in the links in the description. It's a really good video. It's a really, really good video. I really outdid myself, despite doing a lot of it on 3 or 4 hours of sleep. It's a really good video. I did an excellent job. But yeah, the Chiefs, if the Chiefs win just one of their final two games, and by the way, let's just say they lose to the Bengals, I don't think they're going to lose at the Chargers with playoffs on the line. I really don't see it, but I like what the Chargers are doing. So I don't think he'd be worth 40 or 50 million, but Jones gets if Jones is getting that type of money, I can see him getting the same. Yeah, I forgot about Daniel Jones. Yeah, Daniel Jones got the same money. Derek Carr got the same money. Baker Mayfield could get 40 million somewhere, and his agent's going to push for that. Because he's going to look at Daniel Jones and he's going to look at Derek Carr and he's going to say Baker Mayfield is better than both of these guys. And here's another thing. Those progressive commercials I talked about, you're going to say, what the hell does that have to do with it? The NFL is a business, and being able to market your quarterback. Daniel Jones is probably doing local commercials in New York, and Derek Carr is probably doing local commercials there in New Orleans, but those progressive commercials when he was in Cleveland were shown coast to coast, and they were awesome. I mean, they were awesome. Everybody loved them, and he has that marketability that Tampa Bay is not a big market, so you get a guy like Baker Mayfield, and you don't have to sign him for the big time money that Burrow, Tua's going to ask for. That Burrow, Herbert, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, you don't have to sign them that type of money, but you can get a starting caliber quarterback, and you can also market that franchise. That's a big win for Tampa. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I give up quite a bit of money. Of course, it's easy for me to say, I $10 million a year, poo-poo, but I mean, he has a good opportunity to really be set for life, even if he takes a little less money than what his agent is probably pressing for. So The reason I'd be pissed, Perry, is despite how bad the offense has looked, it's been one of the two moronic self. Yeah, and by the way, if you missed the Chiefs game, they gave up back-to-back defensive touchdowns. One was a play where Isaiah Pacheco lined up at quarterback, and he did a zone read to Patrick Mahomes playing tailback. And in the very next play, Patrick Mahomes throws a pick six. And you know what? I'm gonna touch back to this. I'm gonna talk about this. Do I want Nagy gone? The answer is no. I don't blame Matt Nagy at all. I blame the wide receivers who have dropped considerably more passes than any other receiving core. It's by a big margin. It's by a big margin. And that's the only difference between the Chiefs being the best team in the NFL and being a team that could go one and done in the playoffs. For instance, the Raiders game, the Chiefs D didn't give up a completion after some point in the first quarter. D gave up 2 field goals to O, fumbled and threw a pick six in a matter of 7 seconds. So what happens? Back-to-back points, back-to-back touchdowns for the Raiders. Dan, just buy a wolf costume and Robinson brings. This is so great. This gets a star. Keys is on fire. God, I wish I would have. Keys, you know what? I'm kicked off Facebook, but like in our Twitter feed or Instagram, or just text me. Like, just if I don't send you a link, just let me just make sure that you just come on Tuesday. I didn't ask, and I'm sorry. I fucked up. But this is great. By the way, if you're wondering what this is from, there was a Chiefs super fan who did this, and he's like in jail now. So Mahomes and Travis Kelce, both of them were super pissed. Both of them on the sidelines are throwing helmets, and it's really affected the Chiefs game because there was several times Mahomes ran where under normal circumstances he would throw, and also noticed that instead of checking down, the offense completely changed. That he was going deep to short because he's trying to play hero ball, and it's just the offense, just receivers dropping passes is maddening, and it's really frustrating. By the way, first play of the game was a quick out to Travis Kelce, and he dropped it. And you can just tell that these two guys are really beginning to press. A lot of people in Kansas City are just kind of like, oh, well, we have to wait till the offseason to get a receiver. No, I really don't believe that's true. I really just believe that these receivers can just simply make plays that normal receivers can make. Just make catches when you're supposed to make them. And you have one of the best defenses. By the way, it's funny. They had I forget who it was on Twitter, put defensive player of the week. And I voted Christian Barmore, who got almost no votes. And the reason why is the Ravens safety, I can't believe I forgot his name, number 14, Notre Dame. I can't believe I forgot. Anyway, he had 2 interceptions, but Christian Barmore was a game wrecker. And I started thinking about, probably should have won defensive player of the week was Chris Jones. He was literally unstoppable. So I wonder what NFL games are. Oh God, Charles, man, there's so many great games. I think Dallas, Detroit is game of the week. But if you want to tell me Baltimore, Miami that's a good one as well. Kansas City and Cincinnati as playoff ramifications. Pittsburgh and Seattle's a very underrated one because the loser will be, Seattle's kind of an interesting situation because if they lose, Green Bay and Minnesota, one of those teams is going to win unless, if Seattle loses and that game ends up as a tie, which I can almost promise it won't, but you never know. You really never know. That's a good one. Believe it or not, Raiders, I'm sorry. Actually, I was thinking Broncos and Chargers, because if the Chargers win, they knock the Broncos out of playoff contention. If the Broncos lose that game, they're out. Right now, they got a chance. Raiders Colts, that game has playoff ramifications. The Raiders are still mathematically alive in the playoff hunt. They really are, which is hard to believe at 6-8. I'm sorry, 7-8. I think that's right. Yeah, 7-8. So if they beat the Colts are one of those 5, 8, and 7 AFC teams, that's a big one. Bucks, Saints. Bucks win. They win the division. So many great games. And if you're lucky, Denver Gator may go over some of the pro games, but I'm having him on as a college football special on Friday. You don't want to miss Denver Gator. He's a terrific guest. So is Keys. They're both great, but I don't have Denver Gator on. But yeah, I should have had Keys on. Yeah, man, congratulations, dude. So he won Pride 40, got a car, a watch, a phone, jerseys. Like, I don't think anybody and the Lions winning the North for the first time since 1897. Funk didn't appreciate the joke. Funk didn't like it. I said that on the live stream several times. It was first division win since 1897. But keep in mind, since they switched the NFC North around and they took the Bucks out of the NFC North, why do the Bucks belong in the NFC North? I have no idea. But since they switched divisions, the Lions have never won. So, I mean, really, because they've never done it before, it's the same as 1897. But yeah, I get it. He didn't appreciate it. I don't think Nagy adds anything to the offense. So, yes, I want him gone, but he's a popular scapegoat in Kansas City. The problem is ultimately Andy Reid, in my opinion. Kansas City needs more veteran coaching staff. One of the things, and need an infusion from outside Andy Circle coaching tree. But one of the things is that Keys has mentioned is David Coley. He was kind of the scapegoat for the Houston Texans last year because they hired him on late. He's a former NFL wide receivers coach, and Keys has been adamant that he would be a great fit in Kansas City. I really think that just getting receivers who can catch the damn ball, that's what I'd want. I think Kansas City may have to trade up for Brian Thomas Jr. or the other wide receiver that plays with Harrison Jr. And both those guys are great guys, by the way, and I'm going to talk about that quite a bit. One of the things that I'm gonna warn people right now, and I'm gonna go on. I'm gonna keep saying this, like as the draft comes forward, Kansas City's going to draft receiver or tight end or both in this draft, but I think it's going to be between rounds 2 and 5. And the Chiefs traditionally have just said, okay, we're not going to draft a receiver in round 1. I liked Rashee Rice better than FAU. FAU was the player the Chiefs chose with the first overall pick. It turned out to be the 31st pick in the draft because the Dolphins had to forfeit their pick. So I'd liked Rashee Rice over FAU at 31. I liked Rashee Rice better. They chose Rashee Rice, I think 50 or 54 or something like that. I don't remember off the top of my head. I know it wasn't at pick number 64. And I don't remember the specifics on that trade detail, but I think you're going to see in the second round because I mentioned this before about Carolina. There's enough wide receivers in this draft that one of those guys is going to fall, and there's a very good chance that there's going to be a first round caliber wide receiver that goes in the second round. I also would be on board with the Chiefs drafting a tight end. I was talking to my buddy Tim, and I said, "Listen, man, Travis Kelce's 34. I didn't know this. One Pride 40 told me Taylor Swift's a billionaire. I had no idea. I didn't know she was a billionaire. And they're like, well, yeah, she lives in a $750 million house. And I was like, there's a lot of celebrities that live in giant mansions, but they don't own the mansion. They didn't write a check for $750 million. But he's like, no, Taylor Swift's like worth $1.1 billion. I'm like, I didn't know that. So, my buddy Tim, he's like, Dan, Taylor Swift's worth 1.1, she's a billionaire and I'm a multimillionaire. And, do I really want to play anymore? And I'm like, I don't know. But Perry, I think that Chiefs, and by the way, I agree with this too, is you don't have to get a guy in the first round. The Chiefs have been, I think there's other positions I would want to address in the first round, believe it or not just wide receiver, but I think that you're going to see free agents in coming to Kansas City. I think you're going to see draft pick or picks. Take a look at Green Bay. They retooled their entire receiving core without drafting a receiver in the first round. They drafted 3 receivers in this draft, and they drafted 2 tight ends. Romeo Doubs, I think, was a 5th round pick. Christian Watson, second round pick. Christian Watson was a guy a lot of people thought it could have gone in the first round. So there's a guy like that. Brian Thomas Jr. and it's Oike, something like that. There's going to be a wide receiver in this draft that is in this draft, especially that would normally go in the first round. It's going to go in the second round. So how good would Baker look next season if Mike Evans leaves as a free agent? Yeah, you have a really good point too, Keys. I mean, Mike Evans is a guy I absolutely love. Christian Godwin, a lot of people thought that he was the better of the two. I'm not so sure. One thing, though, about Mike Evans is that this will be year 11. And, I mean, he has lost a step. He's got some injuries. So, I mean, you don't know. I could see Tampa Bay getting a little creative. Another thing is that Odell Beckham Jr. is going to leave in free agency. It wouldn't surprise me if he ends up going to Tampa. I've seen weirder stuff, man. I mean, you never know. Dan, would you trade CJ and our first round to Minnesota for JJ, then go after Christian Wilkins in free agency to replace CJ? Oh, God, that would be a lot of fun. Well, first off, Christian Wilkins, I would love Christian Wilkins in Kansas City. I'm just going to say that right now. I think the Chiefs are quietly transitioning to a 3-4 type of defense, and I love Christian Wilkins. I think Christian Wilkins in this defense would be a game changer. I really would. If I had the ability to trade our first round pick in Chris Jones to Minnesota for Justin Jefferson, I would do that. The only issue I would have with that is that Justin Jefferson is trying to break the bank, and he, rightfully deserves that. He's trying to get just crazy money. I heard something about $35 million a year, and we're not going to, even though Chris Jones has made some crazy demands, I don't think he wants that. So you have to understand what Justin Jefferson's wanting is a lot more than Chris Jones and the first round pick. So you have to understand it. If we got a player like Justin Jefferson, no way we keep Snead, no way we keep Bolton, no way we keep Creed Humphrey. All those things go completely out the window. However, Christian Wilkins might be cheaper than Chris Jones, and Wilkins is younger. And I think Wilkins is also a guy that would be more of a run stuffer, because FAU, even though he's barely played, I think he'll get better. Mike Dana, and I kept on calling him Hannah, but Mike Dana, he's another guy that's going to be a free agent. I mean, he's pass rushing specialist. He's had a fantastic season. He's probably going to be gone. I would love to have him come back. Kuntz, the Raiders defensive end, who's opposite Max Crosby, had 3 sacks against the Chiefs last week. Last week, it was yesterday. I'm trying to block it. You have a guy like that who's going to be a free agent. So the answer to your question is yes, but Justin Jefferson, as much as Chiefs fans would love it, he's not coming to Kansas City and taking a pay cut. And a lot of fans think, oh, it's my guy, he'll take a pay cut for my city. No, he's not going to do that. The answer is yes. The answer is yes to both those things. And the Justin Jefferson is just completely unlikely. That won't happen. It makes sense on it's possibly something that would work in Madden, but I don't. And by the way, if I'm Minnesota, I wouldn't hate that at all. I really wouldn't, because a guy like Christian Jones and what they're doing defensively makes a lot of sense. Plus, you get an extra first-round draft pick, and you may need that first-round draft pick because you're going to want a quarterback, and you're not drafting early enough. So getting Chris Jones, but you lose Justin Jefferson, but you already got Jordan Addison. But Jordan Addison, I think, is a 2. So, God, I want to rant there. Sorry about that. Who's your pick to win this season's Super Bowl? You know what? I'm still sticking with Kansas City. And the reason why I say that is because you have the best quarterback in football. I think Kelsey's still the best tight end. I think you have the best defense in the Chiefs have had in a very long time. All you have to do is have these receivers. A couple of these guys that are on IR are going to get healthy. And then Justin Ross was just on the exempt list. And this is a bunch of bullshit, by the way, because he missed, I think it's 7 games, and he was not even arrested. Von Miller was arrested, and he didn't miss a single game. Justin Ross, I'm sorry, I drew a blank there. Justin Ross missed, I think, 6 or 7 games. If Keys has it down here, he'll tell you. 6 or 7 games, he wasn't even arrested. That's some bullshit. He wasn't even arrested, and he was on the exempt list. He played a few times, and I think Sky Moore and McCole Hardman are going to come back from an injury. Richie James played a little more wide receiver than I would like. Kadarius Toney will come back. So I'm sticking with the Chiefs. And I'll be honest with you, the NFC's team that's the best when they're healthy is 49ers. So I think that team stays healthy going throughout the playoffs. I do not. Philly looks a little off. I know they haven't been able to win on the road, but I'm sticking with Dallas. So I think it's going to be Kansas City and Dallas. I'm going to stick with my preseason prediction and just I'm too stubborn to change my mind. So Charles, Kansas City and Dallas, and I like the Chiefs to win. As much as I want to beat Dallas, I don't think we do. One Pride 40. That's you're right. And by the way, I mean this is game of the week for me. And a lot of people may say it's Baltimore, Miami. But I think Dallas and Detroit, it's game of the week. I just have a hard time seeing the Lions really get up for this game. Dallas has been just crazy dominant at home this year. I mean, they're not only are they undefeated, the margin of victory is over 3 touchdowns. It's just weird. I look at the game against Baltimore, where you went to Baltimore and lost 38-6. I think that's a lot more likely than you guys winning. But listen, man, you won the North. And I just have a hard time believing that after winning the North for the first time in forever, that you're just going to get up for a Dallas team that really needs to win. And they're at home, and they're just dominant at home. But that's I'm glad you think that. I'm glad you're on board. By the way, this doesn't mean you can't beat them in the playoffs when you're at home. If this game was in Detroit, I'd be a little skeptical, but because it's in Dallas, I like Dallas. By the way, the purple FTW, stay away from him. Yeah, I think he posted something. He posted like he just went off on a ref rant when the Vikings beat the Chiefs, and I'm like, I'm stopping. Just stop. Don't no. You lost the game. You know, at the time you're a 1-4, so I'm like, just no. Yeah, I did have a Vikings fan who agreed to come on. It wasn't FT. I don't think it was FTW. I'd have to double check. He said he was going to come on, and he goes, no, I'm too much of a vagina, and I don't know anything about football compared to you. That's a quote from him. So he ended up not coming on. Charles Dan has MVP quarterback Trevor Lawrence leading the Jags to a 50-0 Super Bowl. By the way, that was my preseason prediction, Trevor Lawrence winning MVP. I am a little off by that. At Keys, would you move on from Sky Moore? I'd like to bring in a legit wide receiver coach as Larry Kingsley or David Coley and let him make a decision on Moore. I'd also like to see if he could improve under a legit wide receiver coach. He's cheap, so why cut? That's a smart move, yeah. Unless Andy's been holding back a lot, I'm not sure they beat the Bengals at this point. I get the Daniel Jones argument, but it was also his second contract and one that shouldn't have been given. You're right about that. I didn't like Daniel Jones' contract. Baker already got a second, but Jones doesn't have Baker's weapons, to be fair. No, he doesn't. Oh, man, I got the great one. The B in the back talk. The talent. Gooch! Merry Christmas, Gooch. Hiya, boys. Yeah. Well, one of them, Wynum Morris, 4th-round rookie out of Oklahoma. I don't think the plan was to have him be the starting left tackle. Donovan Smith's been kind of disappointing. Jawan Taylor's been very disappointing considering we gave him He's the second highest paid right tackle in football. I didn't like the contract when we made it, but I also thought that if he became a Pro Bowl right tackle, then it's worth it. He has not. He's not been that way. So yeah. On the Pacheco Wildcat play, Creed completely ignored the defensive tackle and let the pressure right in. Inexcusable failure, not the wide receiver's fault. The whole offensive coaching staff looking bad right now. You're right about that. You're right about that, Keys. I should have given credit to the offensive line blocking system because, yeah, I mean, they did that. Bottom line, if the defensive tackle doesn't come in, even with the ball being fumbled, one of the players could just fell down on it, and it just would have been a loss of 3. So, yeah, Chiefs fans did get cool. I got really awesome. Oh God, I'm really behind on comments. All right, sorry, guys. Our offensive line has regressed at points our interior offensive line has regressed in points this season. Haven't seen progression from the offensive tackles. Andy Heck has been offensive line coach for 18 years now. Shouldn't need Eric Bieniemy over Nagy for accountability. You're correct. And Andy Heck, former offensive lineman, longtime lineman. Matter of fact, his son plays for Houston now. One pride Amber Heard snuck in and oh my God. Kevin, what's up, brother? My concern with Baker is, will he keep his head right, or we get an ego again? If you're going to sign Baker, it needs to be front loaded so you can cut bait if it doesn't work out. That's a good point, and that's going to be an interesting decision. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting decision. Who is your pick to win this season? I'm still sticking with the Chiefs. What's up with the tight end Chiefs? Just a lot of frustration. That's all it is. Perry says it's all Swift. So I commented on your picks, Vid. I think the Browns-Jets. Yeah, the Browns-Jets will be interesting. It is going to be interesting. I think you're right, Perry. If the Bucs don't sign Baker, what other teams would be looking at him? I'll give you a surprise pick that may pay him a lot more than you think, even though they have some problems with salary cap. It'll be an incentive-laden contract. Was the Rams. Baker Mayfield and Sean McVay really got along well. And remember, he had a lot of success with the Rams last year. So don't be surprised if he signs a big-time incentive-laden contract with a team like the Rams. And the reason why is you got a guy like Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry. You got a guy like Matthew Stafford who, is older, been banged up. So that would be one team. There could be a team that's looking he could be a team. He could also be a situation where he just signs a 1-year deal if a quarterback goes down, just like Aaron Rodgers did. Trying to think off the top of my head. The Rams are the first team just popped in my head, to be honest with you. But I would also take a team like the Giants and say, okay, and Baker Mayfield doesn't fit what Brian Daboll wants to do, and keep in mind, if you do something like that, you got to move Daniel Jones, and that's an interesting story. I'll throw you a dark horse because there's a lot of hate, and I don't really get it. I would blame the offensive coordinator. The lack of offensive coordinator would be Pittsburgh, but Baker Mayfield going to a team like Pittsburgh to me would make a lot of sense because I would tell Baker Mayfield, it's like, look, you come here, I'm going to fix the offensive line. You got Pickens. You got 2 really good running backs. You have a great defense. You have a great fan base, and you get to fuck Cleveland twice a year. That's how I would sell Baker Mayfield on Pittsburgh. And by the way, Pittsburgh fans would love Baker Mayfield. But I would look hardcore at the Rams because those two guys, Sean McVay and Baker Mayfield, really got along well, and they just really seemed in sync. And a lot of love there. How are we getting all that swag? Somebody's been visiting Detroit Metro Banks, and I'm sorry, I'm behind on comments here. David Coley was the Chiefs wide receivers coach and assistant head coach in Kansas City. Yeah, he was. We all got. I don't know if him being the assistant head coach along with the wide receiver coach is an issue since Dave Toll, the special teams coordinator, also assistant head coach. Denver Gator, he's joining me Friday. That's going to be a great show. You don't want to miss Denver Gator coming on Friday. Sup, nerds just popping in and out while cooking. Is Coley still getting paid? Yes, he is. I don't know the exact terms of the contract, but Denver Gator, I'm sure, has a $750 million house and worth over $1 billion, and yet she's the queen of woke, and her fan base is mostly so. How did she not get canceled? I know, Keys. I know. I'm pretty sure Kelsey is a male gold digger. He's got some game, man. Lions have looked good in prime time. I'm taking them to cover over the Cowboys and the points. Man, I would urge against both of those, to be honest with you, BD Buster. Hey, I'm pulling for you, man. By the way, all my social media links are below. If you don't follow me on social media, just so you know, my Facebook has currently been canceled, but follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. I've sent Facebook several emails, but I'm assuming since it's Christmas, worst case scenario, I'm going to just create a new Facebook and not post anything, just so I have some family members, and believe it or not, there's some Facebook groups I'm a part of that have nothing to do with football. I basically got out of all the Facebook sports groups because they were just terrible. All of them were terrible, except for some old school, like there's one that's like 60s to the 90s and like some vintage stuff. There's some good ones that are there, but for the most part, they're all trash. I would really listen. Take a look at Dallas at home, and I really have a hard time believing that Detroit's going to be able to get up for this game. And I'd be really cautious about the points. I saw 53.5, if I remember right. But BD Buster, man, follow me on social media. Shoot me a DM and let me know what your bets you're making. And by the way, I'm pulling for you, but I would be really, really cautious. I'd bring in Mike Evans of Kansas City next season. I've been seeing a lot of that, Keys, and I don't feel the same way. And the reason why is that I think the Chiefs should go younger, not older. And Evans has not been a guy that's ever been a really run after the catch type of guy. And that's kind of what this offense has always been built around, is that you want to just go run after the catch. I get the logic. I've seen a lot of people. I'm not on board with it. And by the way, I love Mike Evans, but I'm not on board with that at all. I think he's going to cost a lot. I think he's going to cost too much. It's year 11 in the league. Not a guy that's going to take a slant and just go to house. Look at our best receiver, Rashee Rice. He gets the ball in his hand. He's like a running back. And they were kind of hoping that with Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. There's a body type that the Chiefs want. They want a guy that can take that short pass and run after the catch. And Evans has never been that guy. But you're not alone in thinking that. I don't want that. But that's just me. Little Denver Gator giving love to Keys and Perry. My Christmas was pretty good. Good family time. How about you guys? How's everyone's Christmas? It's not as unrealistic as you may think. Evans may want to take a pay cut to get a ring. The Chiefs gave MVS, I think his contract is due for like $13 million this year. So it wouldn't surprise me if listen, this is not unrealistic. Giving Mike Evans a 2-year, $45 million deal, it's not unrealistic at all, and it's something the Chiefs could easily do. And it wouldn't surprise me if Evans gets a deal like a 2-year, $45 million deal. And I'm looking at DeAndre Hopkins, who I think got a 2-year, $50-something million deal. I'm using that as a basis. So Keys drafted Xavier Worthy, and you'll thank me later. He's the Texas receiver, if I remember right. JJ is trying to JJ is trying to break the bank, but CJ was wanting to as well. Don't think he gets it now, but he was wanting nearly the same amount. He was, and he's not going to get it, but Justin Jefferson is. And if he doesn't get it by Minnesota, he's going to get it by somebody. And I'm hearing he wants something like $35 million a year. By the way, Nick Mullins threw for over 400 yards. You guys told me 5 picks. I thought it was 4. I mean, a lot of interceptions, but a lot of yards. Dak Prescott in especially in Dallas, is a completely different story than Nick Mullins. So I would be very cautious about that. Do you think Minnesota would take CJ and our first for JJ? If not JJ, would you try to say, who would you try to? I would not make a trade for our first round draft pick at all. I would do this. Our first round draft pick. I would strongly suggest the Chiefs use our first round draft pick, and I'm going to throw out a surprise position, but I like tackle. Okay, I really like. There's some really good tackles in this draft right now. The Chiefs would draft 24th, if I'm correct. There's going to be an offensive tackle at 24. I think the Chiefs would really, really like, and there's going to be several. I also think that the wide receiver could be available. I'll throw out a surprise position that you're probably going to really disagree with, but we may have to do it because we may lose L'Jarius Sneed in free agency. But it wouldn't surprise me if we go corner in the first round. And you may say, "What the hell, Dan? We're stocked at corner." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but look at the division that we're in. I mean, we got Russell Wilson and Denver's coming on. They got a lot of wide receivers. The Chargers, even though they're going to get a new head coach, they got Justin Herbert with all that money. They got a lot of receivers. The Raiders, they got a lot of receivers as well. If we lose L'Jarius Sneed, it wouldn't surprise me if the Chiefs use our first round draft pick on a corner. And also, if you take a look at this year's corners, there's not a lot. There could be, the way this draft is set up, the Chiefs at 24 could get. I remember when he drafted Marcus Peters, the Chiefs are like, we only had like I want to say something like 14 guys that we had a first round grade on. Marcus Peters was one of them, and he fell in the draft. I think the Chiefs may have traded up for him. I don't remember that off the top of my head. And sorry about that. Wow. Sorry about that. Wow. So yeah. Oh God, man. Okay. Wow. I apologize. I had some technical difficulties, but so I would not try to trade our first round draft pick. I think we need it. I think I want to keep Chris Jones, but I don't think we move him. But by the way, do I think Minnesota would take Chris Jones and our first for JJ? I actually think they would. I really believe that they would, but here's the issue. I don't think we can pay Justin Jefferson what he wants. So there's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft. They are big, fast, and catch and run good routes. There's a DK Metcalf in this draft too. Talk about Kansas wide receivers. Rice snaps went down in this game. MVS went back up, had the most. And MVS should have went down. Richie James and Justin Watson should have went up, and Noah Gray. I don't get why the Chiefs don't use Noah Gray more. Philly looks like Kansas City with overall. You're right about that, coaching staff. Rice needs more snaps. I love Rashee Rice. Watching Amari Cooper and Mike Evans this weekend, all I could think about was give him a home. Yeah, I agree. Sorry guys, I'm behind on the comments. I'm trying to get caught up here. Lions have the ingredients to beat Dallas. We're going to rush all over them. Trust me, we're winning this game. I don't see that at all, BD Buster. I really don't. Have you seen how good Dallas is at home? I mean, they're winning. The average margin of victory is over 3 touchdowns at home. Well, he was messing around. I think the Lions can beat the Cowboys in the playoffs. I think we need to rest guys or limit their snaps. I do too. I think this Saturday's game will be Dallas 52. Oh, my God. Dallas Lions won 5 straight primetime games. They're beating Dallas with the rush game. I don't think it'll be that bad. The Jets could be the Jets could be. And I didn't bring that up because I think the plan is to go with Rodgers again, same thing like they did last year. But if Rodgers can't go and Baker Mayfield's available, that's where I would go. I actually, to tell you the truth, I think Atlanta is going to go with a new head coach, new general manager, and they're going to be a team that trades up for a quarterback. But The Falcons would be a great spot for Baker if they go that way. But I think that I'm almost convinced that they're going to trade up for a quarterback. Matt Ryan has been doing TV. He's actually been doing pretty well. I think he wanted to play. Nobody was interested. His play really regressed with the Colts. And so I think it's one of those deals. He wants to play. I don't think he got any offers. He's doing TV right now. I don't think he's officially retired, but he's doing TV. You're 100%. I agree completely, and I think the Rams are the perfect play. That's what I do. Do you think Stafford retires after this season? I think it's a possibility. I remember during the offseason, the Rams wanted him to take a pay cut so they could bring in some more players, and he's like, fuck that. And so you never know. Baker's found a home in Tampa. That's it. I don't know. I really don't. BC Baker would be a great CFL quarterback. If Baker was a free agent when all the quarterbacks started to go down like flies this season, yeah, he would have. He would have. I don't care about Evans' age or his reception after a catch. At this point, we need somebody who can make contested catches, catch the ball. Mahomes can throw into tight windows. Evans can catch him there. You're right about that. I'm not on board with Mike Evans coming to Kansas City. I am not on board with that. Everybody says that. I get it. I don't want him. I don't want to overpay for a guy who's declining, and that's what we would have to do. I'm not seeing it, but I saw the Chiefs dub. Will the Bucs move on from Bowles now that the team's playing better? I don't think so. I think you got to stick with Bowles. He did a great job. Like I said, that guy who put a comment that, I would have bet heavy on the Bucs winning 4 straight, bullshit. But yeah, you got to keep them around. It'll be very interesting because I've been saying this for a while. I like Baker there in Tampa. I just think that I hope that he realizes he should take less money and stay there. So Evans opens up the middle of the field, the deep passes. He doesn't get the yards after the catch at this point. I get it. I know. I get it. I'm not disagreeing with anything that you're saying, Keys. I want to be very clear. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I just don't want it. I don't want it. And I'm a lone minority here, but I like what the Chiefs are doing is that they're going to keep drafting guys between rounds 2 and 5 to be a receiver and tight end. Travis Kelce, 3rd round, Tyreek Hill, 5th round. And they're just going to keep doing that. Rashee Rice, 2nd round. And that's the blueprint. And they're just going to keep doing that until, one of those guys just explodes. And even if one of those guys explodes, I could see the Chiefs just, trading that player and getting more draft picks in return, just like they do with Tyreek Hill. But I think that's the blueprint that the Chiefs are doing. They're not going to overpay for a receiver in free agency. And Mike Evans, when he approaches free agency, like he's going to get a lot more money than he probably deserves. So I'm talking about Wilkins and Jettas. As for yards after, by the way, One Pride 40 has said on multiple occasions that Laporta looked way better in Chiefs red than Honolulu blue. One Pride said that over and over again. Yeah, he agrees. Laporta looked way better in Chiefs uniform. That's why Aaron Glenn needs to be replaced at season's end. You can't back up, look like a star. He should have been let go. I thought he should have been too, One Pride. And I went on. You remember I was on the Luke G show, like, no way. But yeah. This is the first time I've seen Dan put up a screen. I did. Yeah, I've never had that happen before. Yeah, StreamYard just kind of, yeah. This draft is loaded with receiver, offensive tackle, and quarterback. Yeah. And I think the Chiefs in this draft don't go receiver in the first round. I think they go offensive tackle and maybe corner if they can't sign Snead. But if they sign Snead, then I could see offensive tackle. A lot of people are going to say receiver, but I think the Chiefs go with offensive line in the first round, believe it or not. But it's not been something they've done a lot. But I think this year might be the exception. There's some really good offensive tackles. Keep in mind the Chiefs draft 32nd. They could easily trade out of that pick. Right now they're slated to pick 24. And at 24, I can see the Chiefs trading up a little bit and maybe getting an elite offensive tackle, a guy that can be a plug-and-play guy. Dan doesn't like being behind when there's not a twosome, threesome. Yeah, I know. I don't buy that either, but I'm going to make an account to pay the Sun Gods. It's One Pride 40's OnlyFan page. Join for $99.99. Proceeds are going to the Sun God and Soul Contract Fund. And One Pride, since you pay for the premium package of my OnlyFans, I will pay the $4.99 to join yours. I think the Jets should move on from A-Rod. Whether they should or shouldn't is irrelevant. That they signed him to the contract, they're going to keep him. That's the plan for this year. Or I'm sorry, this year. I mean 2024 is Aaron Rodgers. And think about it. When if you get Aaron Rodgers at like 90% of what he used to be with Breece Hall? Breece Hall, I may be wrong on this. 95 yards rushing, 96 yards receiving. The defense playing lights out, and the best part is that you get some you're going to be able to draft. I would draft offensive line, but you have this great defense. Aaron Rodgers, if he plays even a fraction of what he used to be, the Jets are a playoff team. Yeah, you're right. There's talking about Joe Flacco. Because remember, he was the backup there last year. Flacco would have stayed with the Jets. That's probably a playoff team. Baker, yeah. And Baker may do that too. He may just hold out and then see what team needs a quarterback. He may just say, his agent may just say, you know what, if we're not going to get the deal that we want, let's just hold back and see who needs a starter and just go there. And that might work out best for him. I would stay in Tampa if I'm Baker, and I would take less money, but it's so easy for somebody like me or you to say, I would take 30 million instead of 40 million. It's easy for us to say that. It's a little different in their situation. Dallas not losing at home after. No, I don't see that either. Dallas at home is just a different beast. Just different beast. So I had my other phone on the hook for an hour. It's already at 100%. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Oh, I'm not on board with paying to Evans by any means. I know that hangs on for over. Yeah, yeah. And I think Mike Evans, if he leaves in free agency, he's gonna try to break the bank, because this is like the last time he's going to get that big contract. And then I think after this free agent contract that he gets, then he's going to do like what Julio Jones has done and just try to bounce and try to latch on to a Super Bowl winner at the end of his career. So Beach is going to have to attack the wide receiver room with volume. Yeah, and take a look at the Green Bay model. Is that they drafted 3 receivers in the draft and 2 tight ends, and that's what I would do. Is that they went, I think, 2nd, 5th, and 7th round wide receivers, and then tight ends in rounds 2 and 3. Now, and remember in the first round, they drafted Lucas Van Ness, which I thought was kind of a luxury pick. I would have gone offensive line, but where did Lucas Van Ness go to college at, Keys? I can never remember. Keys a big Iowa fan, of course he knows. But I mean, I would really do the same thing, because those receivers and tight ends had big games against the Chiefs. That's what I would do. So. You could go defensive tackle too, Perry. Especially if you lose Chris Jones, it wouldn't surprise me if the Chiefs go defensive tackle either. One Pride, do you think Jerry J gets cut? I see this Saturday's game. Dallas wins big, score will be 50. I love this, by the way. This is fantastic. My boy Tim, man. Great show. Who do you think has had the best individual? Great show. Who do you think has had the best individual season in the NFL this year? I think it's been Tyreek Hill. And now he was banged up. But here's the thing, though. Like when he I think when Tyreek Hill has played, he's really changed the Dolphins' offense. And I think he's played at an MVP caliber level. I don't think he wins MVP. I really think that after yesterday, I think Lamar Jackson wins MVP, and I predicted that in last week's video. But who's had the best individual season? I think it's been Tyreek Hill, and there's still an outside chance he could get 2,000 yards. I mean, He's got bad ankle. They've already clinched the playoff spot, but I would still stick with Tyreek Hill. That would be my pick, and I think he's just done a fantastic job. I'm still a Tyreek Hill fan, even though he's not cheap. Do you think Robert Saleh gets fired? I don't. And the Jets did something interesting. They said that they're going to keep their leadership staff intact. They're not going to make any changes in the offseason. But if you've gone through history, if you've gone through NFL history, you may have noticed that when an owner says the head coach and general manager are safe, it's basically a coin flip as to whether they'll be safe. It wouldn't surprise me if Robert Saleh gets fired. It really wouldn't. I wouldn't fire him myself. They made a move for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Saleh was on board with that. I'm just guessing, but I don't think he was really on board with that. All right. Then he goes down, and he's a defensive-minded coach. He put one of the top. Forget numbers, forget stats. The Jets have a top 5 defense. They really do. They're loaded on all 3 levels. It's a great defense. I wouldn't fire him myself. I'm going to do a Black Monday show, Perry, and it would not surprise me if Saleh ends up getting fired. And I agree with Kevin. It's not Saleh's fault, but it wouldn't surprise me if he gets fired. Rodgers needs to go to a Florida team. Yeah, I think the Jets ownership understands how bad the rest of the quarterbacks were and the flukiness of Rodgers' injury. And that's the whole plan, was that they decided they're going to go all in with Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to stick with that. It may not work out. It hasn't this year, but you can use that draft pick to fix up the offensive line, which also has had massive injuries. Mekhi Becton doesn't really fit into this new offense that Nathaniel Hackett brings in. He was the 11th overall pick in the draft. Another guy that honestly, if there wasn't all those injuries on the offensive line, there's a very good possibility Becton would have been cut. But now he's been switched from right to left tackle. He's probably going to be gone in free agency. And that's kind of an interesting guy to look at, because the guy has a lot of talent but hasn't been able to stay healthy. If you remember, Mekhi Becton weighed over 370 at the combine but ran like a 5'1". I mean, he moved surprisingly well for a guy that's 370, but he's never been able to stay healthy. And on the field, he looks like these 370s really struggled with speed rushers. He's not a guy that can get out in space. If you have an offense that, like what Kansas City runs, like what the Jets run, where they want to get the offensive tackles in space, well, Mekhi Becton, he's 370. He's had, I think, like 3 or 4 knee injuries since he's entered the NFL. So the Jets need help on that offensive line. Remember, the Jets were trying to make a move to move up to get an offensive lineman, and they tried to move up with the Patriots. Patriots are like, what do you want, Pittsburgh? Oh, you're going to give us less than the Jets? We'll take that. You want Broderick Jones at 14? Yeah. Remember, by the way, you don't remember, New England picks 14, the Jets pick 15 in the draft. And what happened is New England traded with Pittsburgh. They went from 14 to 17, and New England, I think, got like a 4th round pick in return, which is crazy, but they knew that Pittsburgh was going to take Broderick Jones. That would have 100% been the pick if he was available there at 15, but the Jets weren't able to make that trade. The Jets ended up, or I'm sorry, the Patriots ended up with Christian Gonzalez, who for the first 3 weeks of the season looked like the best corner in football. Damn shame he got hurt, but I can't wait till he comes back. But yeah. That's going to be an interesting story. I mean, are they going to bring in Flacco, Simeon? Do they make an offer for, by the way, somebody let me know what the story is with Bridgewater. Somebody told me that he was no longer on the Lions. I thought he retired. He's announced he's going to retire at the end of the year. But what if you're the Jets and you're like, hey, look, do you want to be a backup quarterback and make $8 million this year? Are you going to tell me Teddy Bridgewater wouldn't be a better backup than what they got currently? Gardner Minshew is going to be a free agent. He's played really good for the Jets. I mean, why not sign him to a 3-year, $20 million deal with incentives? Gardner Minshew is a guy that gives you a lot of you know, Gardner Minshew's a guy that's going to get a lot of attention in free agency because he's earned a starting job in the NFL, in my opinion. But they're going to go with Anthony Richardson. So I would love this. I would love this. But because I think, okay, let's just say this happened. All right, let's just say you could make it work contract wise. Okay, Tampa Bay has to give up a 1 minimum number 1, and then the Jets they have to figure out what to do at quarterback. But with the team that they got, it would actually work. I would love it. It won't happen, but I would love it. More than likely, Perry. They must see what Saleh does. Yeah, they do. I got to give you credit, Dan, about Robert Saleh. Yeah, and by the way, I don't think that his job is completely safe. I really don't think his job is completely safe. But if I'm the Jets, I keep him. But Charles asked a great question. Will Atlanta Falcons fire their coach? I think they will, because I don't think the Falcons are going to make the playoffs. And you have some extra draft picks. You have a whole quarterback. They've gone back and forth with the quarterback position. They started Ritter. They went with Heineke. Then they said Ritter's coming back. He's going to start to the end of the season. Then they put in Heineke. They got, I think it was only a $25,000 fine for the John Robinson Week 7 injury issue. That was just really bizarre. But I think Atlanta not only moves on from their head coach, I think they're going to fire their general manager. And I think that they're going to bring in a whole new staff, and they're a team that's they have some extra draft picks, and they're going to trade up in this draft. I can almost guarantee you the Falcons will trade up in this draft. To answer your question, yes. What do you think about Rodgers getting moved to the active roster despite saying he won't play again, bumping the guy? Yeah, that was just a really – I really wish I would let off with this story, because when I heard about it, I just thought it was just beyond stupid. Just beyond stupid. And I've said this a lot. When you have a head coach and general manager that don't work together and butt heads, that's the biggest problem. And that's kind of an issue I see with the Jets and Robert Saleh. And that's kind of why – even though the Jets owner came out publicly and supported Robert Saleh, I think Saleh could get the axe, because this is just a silly move. Do you think Joe Alt goes up? Well, first of all, the Patriots, thanks to winning, they no longer have the number 2 pick in the draft. Right now, it's the Arizona Cardinals, and the Arizona Cardinals, I think are going to be very fun to watch, because they have an extra first-round pick, 3rd, 5th, and 6th. You know what? Let me see if I got that correctly. Let me pull this up. And by the way, this may not be up to date, but I like using a Draft Tech. I should ask to get an affiliate sponsor with them. But so here's the drill. Here's the Arizona Cardinals have 48 pick. No, I'm joking. Okay. Currently, the way it works, Arizona picks 2nd and 16th. They pick 31st. In the 3rd round, they pick 66, 71st, and 80. In the 4th round, they have 2 picks. They have picks 103 and 134. In the 5th round, they have 2 draft picks, 152 and 166. They only have 1 in the 6th and 2 in the 7th. How many picks do they have? Can I count that high? It's 13. So, Arizona won't pick Joe Alt, and I'll tell you why. I remember they traded with Detroit to get Paris Johnson out of Ohio State, who I think is playing good. I wouldn't have made that move personally. Not for I said his name and I already forgot it. If I was New England and I was picking number 2, I would do it. New England picks 4th right now. And the way it works is right now, here's the draft order: Chicago, Arizona, Washington, New England. Okay? Arizona is not drafting a quarterback. And in Chicago, there's a lot of questions. Okay? If Chicago doesn't draft a quarterback, I think what will happen is you'll see Washington and Chicago flip-flop. Okay? Here's where the draft gets interesting is at number 2, because Arizona's going to stick with Kyler Murray. They don't want to go old. Do they go Marvin Harrison Jr.? I would. But you got the Giants that are picking 5th. You got the Patriots are picking 4th. Atlanta's picking 10th. This is as of today. The Saints are picking 11th, right? The Raiders are picking 13th. Who knows what they're going to do, but do you really want to roll with Aiden O'Connell? I'll throw out another dark horse, Minnesota at 15. Maybe they want to go quarterback. Could Minnesota go from 15 all the way to 2? We talked about Justin Jefferson. They need a receiver in Arizona. Speaking of firing head coaches, the last time a team had negative 18 yards in the first quarter was the 20. I actually remember that game. Believe it or not. 18 yards in the first quarter was the 2011 Kansas City Chiefs quarterback by Tyler Palko and head coached by Todd Haley, who got fired the very next day. Yeah, I actually remember that. They got fired, and Romeo Crennel took over the 5-8 Chiefs team and beat the previously unbeaten, the 13-0 Aaron Rodgers Green Bay Packers. Yeah. Fun. Yeah, some good information. Yeah. Negative 18 yards in the first quarter was what Kansas City had against the Raiders, in case that wasn't known or understood. If you're not aware, the Chiefs, it was just unbelievably bad, and there was no real excuse for it. Give the Raiders a lot of credit because they came ready to play. Give the Raiders a lot of credit. I really think that game iced the job for Antonio Pierce. Matter of fact, if I was Mark Davis, I would have went down and said, look, you congratulations, you beat the Chiefs. You're my guy. And the reason why I do that is that we talked about the head coach, general manager, button heads. I would build this organization around Antonio Pierce. I would bring in a guy and say, look, you need to work with Antonio Pierce. And that's very unusual for an interim head coach to have that type of an ability. Because normally when you're an interim head coach and you get hired, and I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the last time somebody can help me out here. When's the last time an intern coach got hired as the regular coach? I know it's happened recently. I'm just drawing a blank on who that was. But it doesn't happen very often. But when you do get that job, it's extremely rare that you also get the owner to build the front office around you. Usually you get the front office who will tolerate you. But then the general manager, if things don't work out, he has the ability to bring his own guy. And I'm going on a rant right here, but sorry about that. But will there be a coach fired? In New York, both the Jets and Giants in Washington, all in Atlanta. Okay. I'm sorry. Will there be coach firings in New York, both the Giants and Jets, and in Washington, and Atlanta, and New Orleans? I think all 5 of these teams could have coaching fires. I think Washington will move on. I think Atlanta will move on because Atlanta won't make the playoffs. I think the Saints are safe under Dennis Allen, but I'm 50-50 on that. The Jets and Giants, I think, could also both make moves. Brian Dable, I mean, that's not his fault that Daniel Jones got hurt. The musical quarterback situation, I'm a little, I don't know. I don't think Dable's safe. I'll let you know that, but I think he survives. I think Robert Saleh is not completely safe, but I think he survives. I think Washington and Atlanta, and out of those 5 teams that you mentioned, I think the Saints are least likely to move on, but I think they kind of like Dennis Allen. I really think they like Dennis Allen there. And I don't think that they're ready to just blow up the team. Now, when I say that, like, they're going to have to make, there's something like $80 million over the cap. So they're going to make some moves. So maybe going with a different head coach makes sense. We'll see what happens. But Washington and Atlanta, I think we're both going to make moves. Do the Jets give up on Zach Wilson? There reports Russ Wilson maybe on the outs in Denver. if I'm the Jets and I can get a fourth, I would move on from Zach Wilson immediately. And I really think that he's a guy. I really think that like the way the quarterback situation's been handled is not good. And I don't blame Salah. I think Nathaniel Hackett deserves a little bit of blame. Zach Wilson deserves a little bit of blame. I just signed up for Max, so I can watch Hard Knocks, and I've added Hard Knocks and the Dolphins Hard Knocks to my list. I haven't watched any of them yet. I don't like doing that, but I'm doing it for like a month. I'm watching some. I don't like buying the extra services, but I signed up for Max for a month. So I haven't watched either one of those specials yet. But if I'm the Jets, do I give up on Zach Wilson? If I can get some trade capital in return, absolutely. Look at Trey Lance. The 49ers got a fourth-round pick. They may not sound significant to you, but remember, they gave up a third-round pick so they can get Chase Young, who's going to be instrumental in that playoff push. So is there a good, giving up a fourth-round pick for Zach Wilson? That's if you can get a fourth-round pick. There are reports Russell Wilson may be out on Denver. Denver right now is picking 14th in the draft. There's a lot of quarterbacks I think Sean Payton could draft at 14. And let's do this here. Let's take a look here because I think Denver has some extra draft capital. I could just be making that up. Actually, they're missing a second-round pick, but they have 3 third-round picks. All right, so if you're Denver, you pick 75th, 78th, and 85th. Could you trade a first and a third and maybe a first next year to a team like, I don't know, New England, who picks at 4th? Or what about, I mean, it's rare, but what if you trade with the Chargers who pick at 6th, or Tennessee who picks at 7th, and you get a guy like Jaden Daniels? Maybe you fall in love with Michael Penix Jr. I think Bo Nix is a guy that could slide in this draft. I have a hard time picturing Bo Nix with Sean Payton, but I think that's more likely than Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. So, but if I'm the Jets, to answer your question, do the Jets give up on Zach Wilson? I would if I can get something back in return. There are reports Russell Wilson. I don't believe that to be true, that the contract is just crazy. But it could happen. I wouldn't be surprised, even though they don't have a second-round pick. I wouldn't be surprised if Denver at 14 takes quarterback. Salah isn't getting fired with a top defense and their marquee quarterback getting injured at the beginning of the first game of the season. All the backups being trashed. That isn't on Salah. I agree with that. The only thing I'm going to argue is that the Jets organization's always been a little strange, and I could actually see the Jets make. I would not fire Salah. I'm going to be very clear. I'm not on board with that at all. But could it happen? Yeah. What are your thoughts on Jets general manager? I mean, I like the move getting Rodgers. I mean, it's not his fault that Rodgers got hurt. I mean, it's really not. That's not on him. The Nathaniel Hackett offense with the offensive line. Now, keep in mind the Jets' offensive line stayed healthy. Mekhi Becton's probably not even on that team. So, I mean, they got some offensive line issues. So you have to understand, like, a lot of people just point the finger at Zach Wilson. They've had like 3 or 4 starting offensive linemen go down, but a lot of the NFL teams have had that. But I don't really hate it, but we made the right hire. Yes, you did. The media is going hard on Caleb Williams. Yeah. I apologize. I have no idea what happened. Same thing. So I apologize. If he wants to, yes. but I really don't think he wants to. I really don't think he wants to. If he wants to, the answer is yes, but I don't think they do. If they fire Salah, I find it hard to believe he won't be getting scooped up very quickly by another team. Yeah, Salah gets fired, he'll get interviewed by, and there could be as many as 8, but I think every team that wants a coach. By the way, I think Salah would work great with a team like the Raiders. So, yeah, Arizona is just loaded with draft picks. BD Buster. By the way, BD Buster, I want to emphasize this. If you're putting money down on the Lions Saturday, I'm pulling for you. But if you haven't made the bet yet, I would really caution against it. But if you already put the bet down, follow me on social media. All my links are below, and I'm going to pull for you. I'm not going to do play-by-play on that game, but I am going to pull for you. But if you do put a bet down, please let me know. But yeah, Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to be such a fun team. And if I'm Arizona at number 2, because I think Chicago at 1, if they decide that Justin Fields is their guy, I think they trade out of that number 1 spot. And there's going to be a team. And I'm looking specifically at Washington. And the reason why is I'm looking at Washington is that Caleb Williams is a DC guy. He's from DC. If you're Washington and you get a new head coach and you get a new general manager, and I think the group's already talking about getting a stadium upgrade or something like that. I think you got to get a guy like Caleb Williams. I really do. I was stuck with Sam Howell, but I'm not really sure what's going on with the Sam Howell development. That game, by the way, between Washington and the Jets, what a crazy game. I'm looking at that. I saw the Jets going up 27-0, and I was like, okay, game over. And I see Washington scoring. I'm like, what the hell? And I see Jacoby Brissett making plays. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, but if I'm Arizona, I'm picking number 2. I don't know if I move on from that. I might just stick with Marvin Harrison Jr. and say, hey, look, man, I'm good. Well, he shouldn't. He's a great scout, but a terrible GM. No disrespect to him. He sucks managing the cap, and the communicator seems like he falls on autism spectrum. This is a great comment. Interior, Antonio Pierce has the right mindset to be a head coach. Stark contrast to Andy Reid's teddy bear, take your foot off the gas pedal mentality. Pierce, I really like the job Antonio Pierce has done with the Raiders. I think he should be the Raiders' next head coach. And I'm not saying – I think the Raiders, what they're going to do is that they're going to interview Pierce and a few other people. If I'm the Raiders, I would not interview anybody else. I would just stick with Pierce and build around him. It'll be very interesting to see what they do. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to interview some people and may move on from Pierce after the season. But we'll see what happens. Chargers, this is awesome. If Denver Gator is still here, I know he agrees with this. I think Dable should be safe. He should be on the hot seat. I agree with this, Perry. I agree with your statement. New York's a tough sports town. The Giants have not played well, but yeah, I agree with you. But you never know. The crazy thing is Zach Wilson's looked like a legit quarterback. Yeah, you know, it's funny because he's always done that. He's had flashes. He's just not been consistent. Oh, God. I know. If you look at the color logo on the Super Bowl, it's going to be blurry. Develop Zach Wilson. That's a great question. You know, I would love to see him develop in a place like LA. You know, you get to develop around a guy like, you know, Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. I think that would be kind of ideal. I'm looking also at maybe another team like the Saints, where they have a starter, but he's kind of underperformed, like in Derek Carr, where he might be able to take over for Derek Carr mid-season if he doesn't turn things around. Another thing is with the Saints is that, now keep in mind, they're going to undergo drastic things this offseason, but the Saints have a really good defense. You got a guy like Alvin Kamara. They have some talent at receivers. So the Saints, but I would really look at the Rams. You may be, don't be surprised if he ends up with a team like I've mentioned this several times. I like Antonio Pierce, but I also like Aiden O'Connell. So let's say you have Aiden O'Connell as your starting quarterback. Is Jimmy G, and Jimmy G is going to be your backup, and you can't move Jimmy G. Let's just say you can't do it. Why not bring in Zach Wilson? And because he's obviously got more talent than both those guys, why not bring him in? And if it doesn't work out, you can cut him. There's a lot of teams that could develop a guy like Zach Wilson. There's a lot of teams that could develop a guy like Zach Wilson. I think he's a lot more appealing than people think. Let's say Miami and Tua, that's going to be an interesting story. They can't. Are you really going to tell me that Zach Wilson would be a dud in the Miami Dolphins offense? Picture Zach Wilson at his best with the weapons the Dolphins have. I don't get it. Is Taylor Swift? I guess so. I've never had this happen before. We now think this. Who do you think are the most stingiest owners in the league? I think that reflects on their team. Well, it's funny because Mike Brown, the owner of the Bengals, has notoriously been one of the stingiest owners in the National Football League. Everything that he's done, and then I think he's made some changes over the years. But Mike Brown also is the general manager. But the Bengals have traditionally been one of the stingiest franchises in the National Football League, and that's the one I kept on hearing consistently, and that's from players, coaches. But Mike Brown's a hands-on. There's really a lot of people don't believe this. There's really not a difference between Mike Brown and Jerry Jones. I mean, he's like in all the meetings. He's the general manager. He's the owner. He goes in the locker room. He has a big impact, but he's also been notoriously cheap over the years. The Chargers owner notoriously has been cheap. They've always had some weird situations. The former owner of the Rams, not the new one who moved the Rams out to LA, the one who was in St. Louis, was notoriously cheap as well. But those off the top of my head. But there's not too many I can honestly say that I would call cheap. If you had to give me the number one, I would tell you Mike Brown in the past, but he's might have changed some things up. But he's a guy who's never hired a general manager. He's the owner. He's the general manager. He's the only general manager who flat out says, I don't take a small school player in the first round. He's the only one. So anytime I see a Bengals mock draft with a small school player, I know that, hey, you haven't done your research, because Mike Brown's been public. He isn't like small school players in the first round. I'll be honest with you. He at this point, he shouldn't need 2 years. He really shouldn't. But I think he's a lot more appealing than a lot of people think. I think that there's a lot of teams out there that would love to bring him on and say, look, can you be the backup? So. What about the Detroit Lions? Lions fans, how would you feel? Teddy Bridgewater retires, Hendon Hooker's, throw him in with Zach Wilson. Why not? You Lions fans, tell me, how would you feel if Zach Wilson was your backup to Jared Goff next year? Where does Eric B end up if Washington fired all their coaches? I'm stealing this from Keys, but I think he takes over as offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh, and that's Keys. That's a Keys quote I'm stealing. Hatters House 710s. Go Lions. Take best of luck. That's my game of the week. Is my wife old enough yet to be wanted by Zach Wilson, or the fact that she's Zach Wilson could come in and be the backup under Andy Reid and revive his career? That's actually funny because Andy Reid's always preferred guys to be over 30, but when he was in Philly, I remember they drafted Kevin Kolb out of Houston in the second round when they still had Donovan McNabb, and then they brought in Michael Vick later. I don't think the plan is to try to develop a quarterback. I think Andy Reid really just wants to work with Mahomes, and he doesn't want a guy to do that. But at the same time, if Zach Wilson wanted to come in for cheap, I wouldn't have a problem with it. I really wouldn't. It might do him a ton of good to come in for a year and just say, look, I'll be a third string guy. I'll sign a 1 year, veteran minimum contract and I'll be the third string guy. But it makes a little sense. It makes a little sense. I don't think it would happen, and by the way, if Zach Wilson signed in Kansas City, he would be the third string. He wouldn't be the second string. So I want to rant about this so bad. So Aiden O'Connell is a statue. And under the offense that Josh McDaniel ran in New England, and he tried to run in I'm trying to remember the other place he was in besides the Raiders in New England. I'm drawing a blank, and I'm not talking about Denver, somewhere else, but maybe I'm anyway. The quarterback, it's a pretty complex offense that relied on a lot of progression and a lot of reads, but it doesn't require a lot of scrambling, which is a little different than what NFL teams are wanting nowadays. A lot of NFL teams, it's a different era, and today a quarterback needs to be mobile, and that's just the way that the NFL is today with all the speed and substitutions. Your quarterback has to be a mobile guy. Well, Josh McDaniels was adamant that, hey, look, my offense doesn't need to have a mobile quarterback. I need a guy that can understand the offense. And he overestimated how much Garoppolo would be able to pick up his offense because Garoppolo wasn't able to pick it up. Aiden O'Connell has done a pretty good job. And then I think what the Raiders did, which was really, I think, a stroke of genius, and one of the things I like most about Antonio Pierce is they said, okay, we're going to dumb this down and make it very simple. We're going to go ahead and just have a run-heavy offense, and when you do throw the ball, you're not going to go through a ton of progressions like you did under Josh McDaniels. We're going to dumb it down, and that's what they did. Now, if you give him a whole offseason, can you change the offense? Yes, and this is also the reason why right now the Raiders pick 13th in the draft. There's a very good chance the Raiders are going to not go with Aiden O'Connell as their starting quarterback, but they're going to draft a guy and have every intention of starting him, but they're going to give Aiden O'Connell the chance, but they're going to say, hey, look, we're going to tweak the offense around somebody like Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix or Bo Nix. Could the Raiders go all in for Caleb Williams? Why not? But I'm right now, I don't like doing trades in my mock draft, but the way things are right now, Chicago 1, Arizona 2, Washington 3, I fully expect Washington to make the move to number 1. And let's go over this here real fast because Washington has, remember, they traded away Chase Young and Montez Sweat. So here's what you have for your Washington. You pick 3rd, you pick 35th, you pick 40th, you pick 67, and you pick 95. If you're Chicago, do you really turn down number 3, 35, 67? I'm 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and leave 2024 alone? If I'm Chicago, do I do that? Absolutely, I do that. And here's what works is that Washington still picks 40 and he still picked 95. And if I'm Chicago, I take 3rd, 35, 67, and I don't think about it. And by the way, they can get more than that. They can get 1, 2, and 3, and maybe a number 1 next year. That's not out of the question because Washington, with new ownership, would love nothing more to bring in the local kid who's going to be the number 1 name on a lot of draft boards in Caleb Williams. They would love that. So could you get more than 3, 35, and 67? Yeah. But at the end of the day, if I'm Chicago, am I thinking, do I take 3, 35, and 67? Yeah, I take that. I absolutely take that. But you can get more. But in the McDaniels offense, that's why Aiden O'Connell stands out. Antonio Pierce, if he takes over or whoever takes over as head coach, they're probably going to run a different offense. And if that's the case, then, you're picking 13th in the draft. You're probably trying to trade up to get a quarterback. Yeah, and you're right, Keys. Tomlin would love to have a guy like Eric Bieniemy. Do you think if the 49ers took Wilson, he might have developed under Kyle Shanahan? Absolutely. Absolutely. I really like Brock Purdy. I watched Iowa State play a lot with Breece Hall, and I watched Brock Purdy. I didn't think he was an NFL quarterback. I'm not going to lie. I really didn't. I watched quite a bit of Brock Purdy. I liked him, but I was like, okay, this guy's going to be a backup NFL quarterback. And, play 10 to 15 years as a backup. That's kind of what I thought. I never thought he'd develop into a starter. Could a guy like Russell Wilson? Absolutely could have. Yeah. I think Russell Wilson will stay in Denver for 2024. 2025, I expect to move. I forgot who was the national talking head who was talking about the Chargers owner is taking offense and to being called cheap and said they were looking for a big name. Yeah, the Chargers owner. I forgot. I saw something on Twitter about the Chargers owner said that we're going to go for anybody and anyone, and that's going to be an interesting story. Wilson is more toolsy, but he doesn't have the brain of Brock Purdy. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. And Brock Purdy is a guy that I whiffed on completely because I watched quite a bit of him at Iowa State, and I had a major man crush on Breece Hall. I know you did too. I didn't think Brock Purdy would be the guy, but he is. He is, and you're right. You're right. He doesn't have the brain of Brock Purdy, and he wouldn't be as successful. But would he be able to have some success? Would he be able to navigate that offense with the weapons? If you put Russell Wilson on the 49ers, they're still a really good football team. They're just not as good. So, would you think Zach Wilson would be a backup at quarterback in Dallas? Remember, they got Trey Lance. They used a 4th-round pick on Trey Lance. So, no, unless they move on from Trey Lance. But I think they like Trey Lance to back up Dak Prescott, and I think they're kind of excited because remember that trade was made late in, I think it was after the draft, if I'm correct. I could be wrong about that, but it was made kind of late. So, I think Trey Lance is going to be the backup quarterback in Dallas, I think, for another couple of years. And that makes sense because remember Dak Prescott, he went down and they had, I keep on wanting to say it's Cooper Kupp, but it was Cooper Rush, and he went 5-1. And people are like, oh, he's better than Dak. He's better than Dak. And the Cowboys kind of squashed that immediately by saying, no, you're going to be the number 3 guy. We're going to bring in Trey Lance. If you move on from Trey Lance, sure. And is Trey Lance worth more than Zach Wilson? That's kind of the $1 million question. I think that Dallas, and I have no idea, by the way, Charles, I think Dallas is really happy with Trey Lance. I mean, this is the 3rd overall pick in the draft. He's got a lot of talent. I wouldn't be surprised if the final game of the season, unless they lose to Detroit, they're not going to rest their starters final week of the season. But they lose to Detroit and Philly wins and they're locked in the 5 seed. I think Dak sits and we'll see Trey Lance, but I don't think that's going to happen. But I think that they're very happy with Trey Lance. Someone in national media this past week saying EB should play with Tomlin. Idea. Okay. Yeah. You said, I stole the idea from you, and that makes a lot of sense to me. I think Wilson is not fit with Dan Campbell. I think Russell Wilson would be a good fit for, it's funny. I'm not really sure. I think with the NFL defenses today, you have to have the ability to be mobile and keep plays alive, scramble if needed. I 100% believe that's why Brady really retired. Do you think Tom Brady could make a good head coach? The answer is yes. I think he'd be an excellent head coach. I don't think he wants to do it. I think he likes doing TV. Remember last year he had to take the 3 weeks off because his marriage was failing and all that other bullshit. Well, now he's dating a younger, hotter supermodel. He's on TV every now and then. I think being an NFL head coach is a taxing job. You got to work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for several months out of the year. And even after the season's over, you got to go straight into the draft. And they do a lot more stuff about the draft than you see. It's not just them showing up at the combine. The answer is could. Yes. Will he? No, I think Tom Brady will never go into coaching. I really don't think he will. I wouldn't be. I've heard some of the things that he says. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts giving speeches. Some of these guys, by the way, like one of the things about being, bear with me on this rant. One of the things about being president is that you don't make a lot of money being president. But after you're president, I heard something. Obama makes $2 million a speech. So you go and you talk for an hour and you get $2 million. I think Brady could talk to there's a lot of like corporations that hire speakers to come in and talk to their companies. It wouldn't surprise me if behind the scenes companies are offering Brady like $500,000 to come in and just like meet and greet and shake some hands and stuff. Remember, he was sitting with Bob Kraft in the owner's box. Bob Kraft has other businesses. Do you not think, like, remember he owns Gillette? And that's funny. I was using a Gillette razor before I came on. Are you not going to tell me that he goes to like a Gillette head office, and hangs out for an hour, hangs out for a day, makes $500,000 or something? I mean, so sorry about that rant. I think Washington needs the best offensive tackle or Harrison. They're going to go all in on quarterback. And by the way, I'm not disagreeing with you. I would go offensive line if I was Washington, and I would build around Sam Howell, who I really like. But no, they're going to go quarterback. You watch. The way things are right now, I can almost promise you Washington will end up with the number 1 pick in the draft. And if I'm Chicago, I would be happy with 3, 35, and 67, but they're going to probably ask for, and it wouldn't surprise me if they get more. But I would seriously. So I'm looking at the trade chart right now, and this is kind of an outdated model, but the number 1 pick is worth 3,000 points. The number 3 pick is worth 2,200. So there's an 800-point difference. Well, 35 is 550 and 67 is 255, which is exactly 805. So it's equal. But when you have a quarterback that you desperately want, you're going to get more than that. So the answer to I agree with you, Perry, but I'm telling you right now, when I do my first mock draft, I don't like to do trades, but I may do it. I may just do a trade because I really firmly believe it's going to be a matter of time before Washington has number 1 pick in the draft, and they are going to draft Caleb Williams. Pick a team with the quarterback, or pick the quarterback in the draft that would best fit with Eric Bieniemy. Oh, that's a good one, Keys. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea. Michael Penix, the quarterback out of Washington, has this really powerful arm. He's a big dude. I like that. He seems like a stable dude. Washington also plays in some adverse weather conditions that didn't affect Penix at all. That's something I think that could come in play for some other teams. He has this weird hitch in his throwing motion that really, really, really throws me off. But I can see a guy like Eric Bieniemy really falling in love with Penix. Bo Nix is another guy, reminding me of Tim Tebow when he was a freshman at Auburn, but his passing if you have the ability, watch Bo Nix as a freshman at Auburn and watch him last year at Oregon, and it looks like 2 completely different players. If they didn't have the same number, you wouldn't even believe that there was the same guy. A guy like Bo Nix, I think is going to get overlooked in this draft, and he's not a guy he's not a natural passer. All right. Like, I remember I watched Kirk Cousins and I was like, that's just a natural passer. Jared Goff looks like a guy's a natural passer, old school, but I'm going Drew Brees, he's just a natural thrower. Doesn't have the big arm, but just a natural thrower. Nix is the opposite. He's got a big arm. He's just not a natural passer. Nix has also got a big arm. I don't know. And that left-handed motion throws me off. Jaden Daniels has so much ability. I don't care what he weighs in at the combine. He is not ever played in a football game weighing over 200 pounds. I think that's a problem in the NFL. Does Eric Bieniemy want to deal with a guy that you really, really want to protect in a lot of ways? Like, I think Carolina will have to end up protecting Bryce Young. Yeah. So I really don't know. I don't know that question. I have a weird feeling that Eric Bieniemy would like Michael Penix, the quarterback out of Washington. I really think he'd like him. I liked Purdy in college more than Roethlisberger, but the measuring stick for me was always how he performed against my Iowa Hawkeyes. Yeah, Purdy had some good games against Iowa. He did. I was asking about Zach Wilson under Russ, not Russ under Shant. Zach. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Kyle. Okay. Kyle Shanahan with Zach Wilson. Oh, God, you know what? The short answer is yes, but there's really not. Trey Lance was more of a scrambler than Wilson, but Wilson has a little more arm talent. Wilson has so much more arm talent than Brock Purdy, but he doesn't have the decision making. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, I would try to keep Purdy as long as I could. Could Zach Wilson develop? Yeah, he could. But if why would you try to develop Wilson when you couldn't develop Lance? That would be kind of my thing. And I think that when they had, keep in mind, when they had Trey Lance, they traded a lot of draft capital for him because they wanted to change the offense to where a quarterback scrambling and moving around. Purdy's not really a scrambler, but he can use his legs. There's a kind of a difference there. So they've tweaked the offense. They added some pieces, and it'll be kind of interesting because when Purdy's contract comes up, you go from being the least paid starter in the NFL because he's going to get a lot of money, and he deserves it. It'll be an interesting story. Could he? Sure. Will he? I don't know. I don't. It'll never happen, but it'd be interesting. Do I think that Dallas can develop Lance? I actually do. But the plan is they really like Dak Prescott. And he's going to stay as the guy. He's going to stay. I'm sorry, I'm being distracted over here. Bear with me. All right. So I think Dallas can, but they really like Dak Prescott. Lance is going to be the backup quarterback unless they can trade or move on from him. And does he have any trade value? I don't know. There is a chance that we see Lance. I think it'll be funny. Watch him in preseason and see how he does, and then we'll see because he may have some trade value. The answer to your question, absolutely. Shanahan's system is quarterback friendly. NFL defenses are only getting more and more complex as they attempt to stifle the Mahomes, Allen's, Burrow. So I don't think Lance can be developed as a quarterback. I think he can, because he's got arm talent. He's a very athletic dude. The thing is the reason why I didn't like him as the third overall pick is he's so raw. He's just such a raw guy, and I thought throwing him out in the NFL was just such a mistake. But I think the talent is there, and what the Cowboys want to do offensively, I think they can tweak it a little bit under Lance, so it wouldn't be the same offense. So I think he could. But I think the plan is for Lance, if he stays in Dallas, is you're the emergency in case Prescott breaks. But if he has a good preseason, could he be moved for draft capital? Absolutely. I could see TB12 company getting into mental strength training and mental skills training and consultant for. Yeah, I read bits and pieces of the book. So there's a mall just right up the road. And one of the things I like doing every now and then, I haven't done this in a couple of years, but they have a Starbucks inside the bookstore. So what I'll do is I'll buy one of those $5 coffees and I'll read several books. Well, I took like a couple hours and I read the TB12 book, and he quit weight training after Bernard Pollard tore up his knee, and all he did was resistance band training, and he went into all these details about how, like, why you don't want to lift weights and you want to do band training. Now, I lift weights, but that I'm not a professional athlete. If I was playing football, specifically the quarterback position, I understand why you want to do band training instead of weight lifting. And he had a whole thing and like diet and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I think that's part of what he's doing. And I think Brady also, I've seen him on TV, and I think he likes talking. I would not be surprised if it's not public. But I wouldn't be surprised with Bob Kraft. Remember, he owns Gillette. He owns some other corporations. If like, and by the way, I can't prove this, but you know how Brady always took those team-friendly contracts? It wouldn't surprise me if him and Brady just have a deal like, hey, you know, why don't you go to Gillette and talk with the CEO, and I'll give you $1 million for a speaking gig. And the speaking gig is him just, you know, sitting in a boardroom, you know, hanging out with the guys. And it's kind of a benefit to the CEOs of Gillette. Like, hey, look, I get to hang out with Tom Brady. You know, maybe I don't know. I mean, you know, I'm stretching, but it wouldn't surprise me if Brady does other things besides just the TB12 thing. You know, so I think Brady's doing a lot of things. I would love to see Brady go into coaching. I would love it. I don't think he will. So. Actually, how did you have the pendant hooker graded out of college? Because I thought he was a first round. I had him as a first round pick. I actually thought in one of my mock drafts, I had Detroit taking Hendon Hooker at 6 because I don't do trades. And I thought it was early, but I thought it made sense. Another mock draft is because Detroit had the picks. They had 6 and 18. I had Hendon Hooker going to Detroit at 18. And I loved Hendon Hooker coming out of college. That was my favorite pick at the draft, is getting him in the 3rd round. I had a first round grade on him. I liked his size. I liked his athleticism. I liked his arm talent. I liked his mental makeup. The only negative was that he had the injury. But I easily had a first round grade on him, and I thought that there was a good chance he could have gone top 10. If Detroit picked him at 6, I wouldn't have had a problem with that. The only problem you have is that when you pick a guy at 6, he's got to play. You can't go back to golf in 2024 if you take Hendon Hooker 6 in 2023. But yeah, BD, I had a first round grade on him all day. Hey, what do you think? Would you think Kirk Cousins will be back in Minnesota? That's an interesting story because Kirk Cousins is a free agent, and I don't know the extent of his injury. I know Kevin O'Connell likes him, but I could also see Kirk Cousins going to a place like I put him in Tampa Bay. I think he's an upgrade over Baker Mayfield. Let's say Matthew Stafford retires. Would Kirk Cousins be a nice fit with the Rams? Absolutely. Could Kirk Cousins just hold out and wait for a quarterback to be injured? Yeah, he could do that. I never understood what the issue was with him in Washington, because Washington should have gone all in on Kirk Cousins. And I question if there was just something about the guy, because I know when he went to Minnesota, him and Mike Zimmer apparently hated each other. Those two guys just hated each other. Now, Zimmer's an old school defensive guy. Cousins a quarterback. I get it. But after what happened in Minnesota, or after what happened in Washington and all the issues with Zimmer, I just wondered, is Kirk Cousins just like some giant dick in the locker room or something? Because, I mean, go look at Washington's all-time passing leaders, and for yards in a season, nobody has 4,000, and Cousins has like a 5,000 yard. Cousins had some great seasons in Minnesota, and Mike Shanahan, Kyle's dad, remember he worked with RG3. He was adamant, like he said, yeah, it was up to me. I would have started Cousins over RG3, no question. But the owner kept on pushing RG3. But yeah, Kirk Cousins, that's going to be a great story. I have no idea what Minnesota's going to do, because Minnesota may decide that, hey, look, we're going to break the bank for Justin Jefferson, and we're just going to draft a quarterback, or we're going to just go with. There was another quarterback from BYU that was in the mix, and then he got hurt, and maybe they want to give Mullins a shot. But I personally could see Minnesota just saying, you know what, we're going to give Justin Jefferson as much money as he wants, and we'll just draft a quarterback. And we're going to see, because Kevin O'Connell, I think, is an excellent coach, and I think he could develop a young quarterback. There was like some stuff that was blanking on the draft text. I'm not going to go back to it, but Minnesota, let's say they don't make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, you have to trade up. But if you don't make the playoffs, there could be a guy like Bo Nix. What's the comp for Nix? Is he Allen-like? I want to quote you Tim Tebow, because he looks like Tim Tebow to me. A comp would be Will Levis. He reminds me a lot of Will Levis. I think Levis has a little more arm talent. Nix has a lot more athleticism. Nix is a guy that is going to impress people at the combine. He's going to be like 6'3". He's going to be like 230. I think he's going to run fast. I think he's going to run like 4.6, 4.5. Like, he's going to be impressive. Like, Bo Nix is going to be very physically impressive. This is a big dude. He's going to probably the most popular comp is going to be Will Levis. So I watched him play at Auburn, and he reminded me so much of Tim Tebow when he was a true freshman at Auburn, and he was a big-time recruit. Auburn had some issues, so he left for Oregon, and his passing just got so much better. But he has like some crazy number because he played during that COVID year. It's something like, I want to quote you, it's like 67 starts. It's something crazy. It's an all-time record for college quarterback starts. But Will Levis would be the best comp. He's a big, strong dude, but he's a better athlete than Levis. He doesn't have the arm talent. Will Levis has a lot of arm talent. It's just that he was wildly inconsistent. Jaden Daniels. You're going to see Jaden Daniels just skyrocket up this draft board. I started looking at mock drafts that had him mid-first round, and I saw one that he was, I think, 11 to Atlanta. When everything's said and done, Jaden Daniels is probably going to go top 5. Jaden Daniels is going to skyrocket up this board. And his tape's going to be the most impressive. That's why. He won and deserved to win the Heisman Trophy. He had several games, like, I think he had one game that was like 400 yards passing, 200 yards rushing. I know he had a 300 and a 200. I mean, his tape looks – go back to Bryce Young. You put Jaden Daniels' tape in and you put Bryce Young's tape in, you can make a very strong case that Daniels looks more impressive than Bryce Young. You can make a very strong case for that. Remember, he only played 1 year at LSU. Doesn't have near the talent surrounding him that Bryce Young did. So Jaden Daniels is going to skyrocket. It would not surprise me if Daniels ends up being the second quarterback off the board. It wouldn't surprise me, even though I haven't yet to watch Drake May, but a lot of people feel like he could be number one. But yeah. Do you think the Lions could use Hendon Hooker like the Saints use their 2 quarterbacks? He is activated. I would. I really would. If I'm the Detroit Lions, I use Hendon Hooker in the playoffs like this because there's no film on it. And he's got the athleticism that he can do a lot of different things. Maybe Trey Lance with Dable would be pliability. Yeah, exactly. It's really great. It's actually really great. I actually was very impressed. When I started going to Planet Fitness, I was doing band training, but I'm not a professional athlete. So for me, weightlifting, I use a Smith machine, which I'm not trying to bulk up. I'm just trying to maintain, but I need to, I'm sitting here doing this to my gut. I ate like an absolute monster the last several days. So Hooker would have been a top 10 pick. Hooker would have been a top 10 pick. He outplayed Bryce Young in beating Alabama, which I know Gooch doesn't want to hear, but I mean, he did. He beat Alabama. He outplayed Bryce Young. Bryce Young went number 1 overall. There's a very good chance if he wasn't injured that he might have gone number 1. He may have gone number 2. He may have gone number 3. He really was a good guy. Last I saw, he was at Jackson State helping Deion Sanders, and I know Jerry Jones loved this guy. Jerry Jones said that he regretted firing him, and one of the things Zimmer said is that him and Jerry Jones get along. Jerry Jones has this hunting property, and Zimmer's a big time hunter, and he still uses like the Jerry Jones property. I would love to see Mike Zimmer be a head coach, but to answer your question, no. I don't. I really don't, and it's a shame because I think he did a really good job with the Vikings, but I have no idea why him and Cousins hated each other, but it was very known, and I just wonder because like for some reason or another, Cousins plays well everywhere he goes, but nobody wants to look at him as a long-term solution. He's never been looked at as the guy that can be the franchise leader, even though he plays like it. So I wonder. It goes back to my point of stingy owners. No, I get it. Yeah. Charles asked a great question. If Matthew Stafford of the Rams retired, would the Rams go after Baker Mayfield? Absolutely, they would. Not only would they go after Baker Mayfield, they would probably give him big time money. They would probably give him a lot more. We were talking about those crazy contracts. Baker Mayfield may get like a 5-year 225. He may not get 50, but he may get over 40. He would make more than Daniel Jones or a Derek Carr. He would get over 40 if Stafford retired. Keep in mind the Rams have a tough salary cap position on their end, so like they would have to get a little creative. But yeah, I remember he didn't, but he was supposed to, and I don't know the whole story behind that, but I know he's not. I don't. To the best of my knowledge, I don't think he's on the coaching staff. That's another thing I got saved is the Deion Sanders on because I'm not. So my Amazon Prime ends in February, and I'm not going to renew it, and that's going to be tough for football season next year. But yeah, I knew he was supposed to, but I don't know what happened. Zimmer was Deion. I want to say I don't remember if he was the defensive coordinator or the defensive backs coach. I want to say he was the defensive coordinator in Dallas, but him and Deion have a great relationship. I don't know the whole story. I know he was at Jackson State. I know he was supposed to, but I think something happened, and I don't know what. I don't know if a better job came along or not. It's something I probably should. I loved Mike Zimmer. I thought he was a really good coach. I understand Vikings felt like they wanted to move on. Yeah, but he was supposed to. Not this year. I don't know the specifics, but I know it's not this year. Because what the Rams did, I remember the Rams were adamant that they brought it public, which is never a good idea, but they're like, yeah, we're kind of hoping Stafford can work with us because we got a lot of holes to fill. Because remember, the Rams had like I think it's 15 draft picks. It's 15 or 13, but more rookies that played more snaps for the Rams than any other team. It's by a huge margin. You got, of course, Puka Noda, who's going to win. Well, he'll win Offensive Rookie of the Year. CJ Stroud's going to win Rookie of the Year. But you got Noda putting up a fantastic season. But I mean, they got guys 4th, 5th, 6th round draft picks playing significant minutes. Steve Avila, he was their first pick. I think he was the 36th or 34th pick in the draft. I can't remember which one, but he was a guard out of TCU. Just a great player, great player. Big reason why TCU went from an undefeated regular season to a 5-7 regular season. They had Quentin Johnston, the quarterback, went in the 7th round. The Chargers got the other TCU receiver in the 7th round. These like returning punts and kicks for them. But a lot of people don't realize how a really good offensive lineman can really affect the team on the college level. Steve Avila was that good. He was a great player. He's plug and play day one for the Rams. So. Anyway, yeah. Hey, do you think Jack Del Rio could coach any again? Defensive coordinator, absolutely. Head coach, no. I will bet any amount of money he will never come back as NFL head coach, but I thought he did a great job last year. And last year as defensive coordinator, and I know he got fired, but I think it was kind of a scapegoat thing in Washington, and then I don't think it'll work. But Jack Del Rio, he actually was after he left Jacksonville, I think he went to be a linebacker coach, and then he got elevated or hired by Washington's defensive coordinator. Will he coach? I think Jack Del Rio will completely coach. I remember he was a Chiefs linebacker. I actually really liked him as a Chiefs linebacker. Show my age a little bit, but yeah. Yeah, he'll definitely coach. Head coach, no. 0 chance he'll be a head coach. Do you think Zimmer can get a DC job? What happened to John Gruden brother, who was the head coach of Washington? That's a great question, Perry. That's a great question because I know that he was hired by Washington. It was a surprise hire. And I know that I want to say I don't think he's in the NFL. I think he actually went to the Arena League. I think he owns an arena team, to be honest with you. I could just be making that up. I know Danny White, you may not remember this. Danny White was the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys who replaced Roger Staubach. He bought I think it's the Arizona Rattlers, and he bought it. So he's like the owner, general manager, and head coach. And I think Gruden, because he was like doing arena ball, I think he did something similar. I could be lying. Well, like Dan Minnett's into his new drug supply. Keys, man, thank you so much for in the comments, and if you want to come on next week, I'd love to have you on. And if you can, join in the comments Friday, because Denver Gator said he is going to bring it. He said he's going to be he's got a life-changing bet. So Jay Gruden, yeah. Steve Avila could, Avila's going to be a great player for the Rams. That was a great draft pick. You need a new plug. Maybe I do. You notice I kind of reuse the same things over and over again. You're right, though, Perry. You're right. Do the Bills clean house with their coaches? No. I would have told you yes a couple weeks ago, but they're going to the playoffs. It's not official yet, but the Bills are going to go to the playoffs, even if they go one and done. I think that, they had a lot of injuries this year, and the fact that they were able to beat Kansas City and Dallas, and that they're on a 3-game winning streak. No, the Bills will be fine. The Bills are going to have to make some changes, though, because they got a very old defense, and they're going to need to get a lot younger on the defensive side of the ball. And they're going to have to make some tough decisions, because they're going to have to let go of some aging starters and add some youth on that defense. But I don't think so. I think they're good with the coaches. And, yeah, I know. But I do mean this, though. Denver Gator is I'm really excited about Denver Gator joining Friday and talking college football. It's something different. I don't talk a lot of college football in here, and if I could do YouTube full time, Perry, if I was just doing YouTube full time, I would watch so much more college football. And I'll be honest with you, betting on college football is better than betting on the NFL. It really, really is. Betting on college football is a lot better than betting on the NFL. The problem is I don't have enough time to watch college football. I really don't. I tried it a couple of years ago. I DVR'd like I DVR'd something like 12 to 15 games, and I watched a couple of them. Then Sunday came around for the NFL, and then Monday came around, and then Tuesday came around, and I was like, I got like 9 games of college football to watch. I was like, it was just overwhelming. So if time wasn't an issue, I would do so much more with college football. If I would do a lot more with college football if time wasn't an issue. I might even split it up, or like that's another thing, is that when the season's over, I may cancel the Tuesday show and just go on Friday. I'm up in the air. I'm going to stick with Tuesday and Friday throughout the playoffs. And the reason why is I'm trying to get guests on. Denver Gators joining next Friday. That's going to be a great show. George Riley, a.k.a. Riley, he told me he's going to come back on. I love having Keys on Tuesday. I didn't ask today because of the holidays and the way my schedule's been, but I love having Keys on. He's a lot of fun, and our personalities are a little different. Keaton Talk Sports was supposed to come on a couple Fridays ago. He had the incident with the Matchbox cars. He messaged me. He's okay. We haven't agreed to anything yet, but he did hit me up and he wanted to come back on. I just haven't really confirmed that. But my whole point is I want to get more guests on the show. So you need to get New Key back on. New Key. Keys is fantastic. Keys is fantastic. Who's New Key? Do you mean Keys? Keys is great. I love to get Keys on, but I'm not sure if that's who you're talking about when you said New Key. But are you going to watch this week? Absolutely. I'm not. I can't remember if it's tomorrow or if it's right now on my DVR, but I got you. I'm really looking forward. I'm going to watch USC Louisville. I haven't watched Louisville play at all. There's a lot of players on Louisville I kind of want to check out. Even though half Florida State's sitting out, I'm going to watch Georgia, Florida State. I'll stand by this. Oh, Luke G. Yes, I love Luke G. I was supposed to go on his show and I never did. I think he's cool with that. He understands that I wanted to, I just didn't have time. And I've been a long time supporter of Luke G. I was actually going to try to get Luke G on for the playoffs. And I'll be honest with you. I should have already reached out to him. That's actually a good idea. I'll reach out to him this week because I really wanted to get his perspective on the Lions. And like I said, I think we're going to have a Lions Rams playoff game, and I would love to know. But Luke G is an all-time favorite. Yeah, I love Luke G. And if my schedule was different, I would, because Luke G, what he does is he puts the link in his channel, so he has random people come on. But what Luke G does, and this is the biggest difference between me and Luke G loves to argue with people. I hate to argue with people. When you come on my show, I like it to be more like an interview or a question and answer, where Luke G, he likes to argue with people. And I'm not an argue person. I like giving my opinion, but I hate arguing, where Luke G lives for it. And that's like the only like contrast is that he like, because he told me after he was on, he goes, I intentionally argued with you on things because too many people thought we agreed, because me and Luke G, we have different personality types. But when it comes to football, we agree about a lot of things. Of course, we disagreed on Lions and Chiefs. He was right, I was wrong. So Who do you think who do you think wins between Louisville and USC? I think USC does. Now, I didn't have a chance to look this up yet, but I do believe Caleb Williams is actually going to play. I don't think it matters because the backup quarterback for USC, I'm hearing that this guy is going to be a Heisman candidate, and don't be surprised if come September, whoever the quarterback is for USC, and I don't know his name, don't be surprised if he ends up being a Heisman candidate. Even though Caleb Williams, it's been popular that the star college players are sitting out, I believe he is going to play. I really should double check before I state that because most of the players have been sitting out. I think Williams is going to play. I could be wrong about that. If he doesn't play, their backup quarterback, they are raving about. They love this kid, and I think he plays a good game. Louisville's going to play most of their starters. I don't know if Caleb Williams is going to play or not. I actually do think he's playing. I could be wrong. You need to get anyone from Roar. Oh, yes. Yeah. So Roar to Lions UK is one of my favorites. And I reached out to him because I tried to get him home on a live stream. He's like, Dan, it's like 2 a.m. where I'm at. And they're 6 hours ahead. So I'm like, yeah, I get it. He did tell me that he would be open to do a video. And so he's probably not going to make a live stream, but he is open to doing a video. And he does know college football. I love his college content. I'm a huge Roar to Lions UK fan. Huge Roar to Lions UK fan. And he's a guy that I would love to work something out. What I might do is make a video and then put that video on my live stream. But the number one thing I like about the live stream is I like the interaction. I love the fact that if you have a question, I have an answer. And I love the fact that I have no idea what I'm going to get from the chat. I love the randomness. I love to know what you guys think. And I like to respond to that. And it's not been often because most of the guests I invite on usually do a great job. Like Luke G, he can talk about anything. Keys football knowledge is extensive. Denver Gator, when it comes to college football, and his betting knowledge is world class. When I had Riley, George on, he goes by his nickname's Riley, but it was funny because I told him, I said, most of my shows last 2 hours. He goes, that's too fucking long, Dan. I'll do like an hour. And I said, listen, man, just however long you want to go. And then after an hour, I was like, do you want to? He's like, no, I'm having a great time. And he ended up staying on for 2 hours. And he's like, yeah, it was a lot easier than I thought. And I was like, yeah, I told you it would. But I haven't reached out to him either. But Roar to UK, Roar to Lions UK. I'm going to try to get something ironed out. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do Tuesday once the off seasons comes. During the playoffs, I'm going to be live Tuesday and Friday. After the season's over, I may just go back to Friday. I'm on the fence. Who do you think wins the college football championship for this year? Well, I'm going to give you a weenie answer. I think whoever wins between Michigan and Alabama is going to beat the Texas Washington winner. And I'm leaning towards Alabama right now. I think Alabama wins the whole thing, but if Michigan beats Alabama, Michigan will beat the Texas Washington winner. And I do think it's Texas, and I can't wait for Denver Gator to come on and talk about it. Riley actually put a heavy bet on Washington to cover 4, I'm sorry. He got 4 points because I saw it at 6 when it opened, but he took 4, and I would love to know what he thinks. But anyhow, right now, I think it's going to be Alabama and Texas. And I think Alabama will win the rematch. But whoever wins between Michigan and Alabama, that team is going to win the national championship. That team's going to win the national championship. And I'm going to level with you. If Georgia made the Final Four, I think there's a good chance that Georgia would have won the whole thing. Georgia really got fucked. They really did. But so I'm gonna give you Alabama, but if Michigan beats Alabama, Michigan will beat whoever wins between Texas and Washington. Those Michigan and Alabama are the two best teams in my opinion. So whoever wins, and I kind of like Alabama. I think as the season's gone on, I think they've been the best team in college football, and I've said that for a while. That said, I have not watched as much college football as I normally do. And if my YouTube channel blows up and I'm able to not work as much or not work at all, then what I'm going to do is just watch a lot more college football, and I'll do a lot more college football betting. Long term, I plan to work less, bet more, and use that betting winnings to support my lifestyle. But I can't do that currently. So, okay. So I've been on for over 2.5 hours. I think I'm going to wrap it up here. By the way, listen, do check out my weekly picks video. It is fantastic. It's a really great video. Your 2024 will absolutely suck if you don't watch that video. So make sure you watch it if you haven't already. All my social media links are listed below, but I am currently canceled on Facebook. I have no idea. I'm hopeful that in the next day or two, I will be reinstated. I did not get an answer as to why. All I know is I woke up Christmas. I tried to go on Facebook. I saw I've been kicked off. I saw I got the email, and I have no idea why. I'm trying to work on that because there are some Facebook groups that I am a part of that are not football related. I would like to stay in. They're just on Facebook. I probably need to do more on the Discord server. I know a lot of people use that. I just have not. I don't even know if I can broadcast on Discord. That's something I'll look into. But yeah. It's my brother from another mother here. If it was Taylor Swift, she got out the. I know it may have been Taylor Swift. What do I think of the Jags GM? I'm actually a fan. I like what they did. I don't blame the Jags GM for the 4-game losing streak. I mean, you got Trevor Lawrence. You got lucky to get Trevor Lawrence. If you remember, the Jets won that game late in the year. They beat the Rams, so they got Zach Wilson instead of Trevor Lawrence. You made a great signing. Was it Forsay Alaquin? You signed him from Atlanta. Then he went ahead and led the NFL in tackles. You got Devin Lloyd in the draft. A lot of Lions fans say, hey, you could have Aiden Hutchinson. You drafted Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker's never going to be like a huge sack guy, but for the defense that they're trying to run, I think he'll be just fine. I think he's done a good job. I don't think there's an issue with the Jags general manager personally. And by the way, if you watched my video, I did joke around and put Taylor Swift as a jinx for the Chiefs, but it was a joke. I actually love the Taylor Swift thing in Kansas City. I think it's fantastic. So, but I think I'm gonna end things here. By the way, do check out my video. All my social media links are listed below. If you're trying to join me on Facebook, give me a day or two, and I'm pretty sure I'll be reinstated. If I'm not, what I'll probably do is I just create a new Facebook account, and if I end up having to create a new Facebook account, I'm probably not going to post anything, but I'll have it available. Some of you guys, not a lot of you guys, but some of you guys do communicate with me on Facebook, so. I appreciate everything that you guys have done. Don't forget, me and Denver Gator will be tag teaming you on Friday. It's going to be a great show. I can't wait to see you guys back on Friday.